Chapter 1543. The day of the mine opening finally arrived. During these few days, many battles erupted in the boundlessly vast mine. Everyone started a frenzied war of plunder. Those weaker Immortal Foundation characters were all plundered clean and many died. In fact, there were even many immortal kings who died within the mine. Qin Wenyan also encountered many plunderers. He didn't show any politeness and killed all of them. Although this was the rule of the mine, he wouldn't take the initiative to plunder. But if there were people who provoked him, he wouldn't show any mercy. Hence, the number of immortal stones on him grew more and more. When a gigantic spatial gate appeared in the air, resplendent spatial light cascaded downwards, enveloping the mine. Qin Wenyan actually felt somewhat depressed. He had so many immortal stones on him, and there were even quite a few emperor stones. Was he going to hand over 90% just like that? This was something he felt extremely unhappy about. But although he was imposing inside, he was merely an immortal king. How could he covet the things of the Realm Lord? That would truly be courting death. The Realm Lord wouldn't even know about this. His subordinates would deal with him. For example, the controller of this mine, the Jialan Monarch. He knew that all the mines under the Jialan Monarch's control were connected to the Jialan Monarch's Emperor Palace through a spatial array. The resources of these mines, even if it was just an ordinary mine, wouldn't allow others to dip their fingers in it. There was only one type of people who dared to dip their fingers in these mines. They were all known as bandits, those fugitives. Everyone, get out of here immediately. In the air, an expert guarding the spatial gate spoke. His voice covered the entire area as experts soared up into the air, passing through the spatial gate before vanishing from sight. Every 10 years, a mine would produce a large number of immortal stones. At the same time, many people would lose their lives. In fact, many people would be trapped in the mine, waiting for the next 10 years. In fact, they would continue to wait until they died and were discovered by others, who would then take away the immortal stones they had dug up. Nobody would be able to take away the resources of the mine. Let's go. Qin Wenyan and Yang Yun are left through a spatial gate. In the external world, in the mountain range, many people walked out from the caves. There were many experts guarding the area, and there were even more of them compared to the time when Qin Wenyan first came here. When the mine opened, it was also the day of harvest. 2 immortal emperors directly came here from the Jialan Monarch's Emperor Palace through a teleportation array. They were here to harvest the ores, and after they obtained the ores, they would directly use the teleportation array to teleport back to the Emperor Palace. There was no chance for Qin Wenyan to take advantage of them. However, nothing was absolute. In a spacious area, those people who came out from the mine were all gathered here, handing over their interspatial rings to be counted. Qin Wenyan and Yang Yun were also among the crowd. With 2 immortal emperors here and immortal kings in charge of counting, who would dare to act recklessly? These 2 immortal emperors weren't among the immortal emperors Qin Wenyan met back then. From this, one could see that there were many immortal emperors in the Jialan Monarch's Emperor Palace. The power of a monarch in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms would definitely be a peak power. There was no need to doubt this. Qin Wenyan stared at the experts handing over their interspatial rings as he felt a little heartache. 90% of them didn't belong to him. Although this mine was just an ordinary one, they still couldn't afford to lose it. Hence, there were 3 teleportation arrays connected to the Jialan Emperor Palace, and they could be activated at any time. In addition, these 3 teleportation arrays were all guarded by experts. This was especially so for the day of harvest. The guards were all peak-stage immortal kings from the Jialan Emperor Palace and were definitely trusted aides of the Jialan Monarch. At this moment, in front of one of the teleportation arrays, there were 2 peak-stage immortal kings guarding it. They seemed to be resting, but their immortal senses were scanning the surroundings, observing the movements in the surroundings. At this moment, the immortal senses of these 2 peak-stage immortal kings seemed to have sensed something. Instantly, their immortal senses gushed over, and after that, they saw an incomparably gigantic beast. At that time, it was a lion. Its eyes were demonic and terrifying, glowing with green light. This lion seemed to be taking light steps, coming from afar, directly walking into their minds. Their consciousnesses struggled frantically, as if they wanted to resist something. However, in the next moment, their eyes opened, also glowing with green light. That lion seemed to be guarding their minds, unable to be removed. The guards in front of the other two spatial formations had the same experience. Their eyes glowed with green light, and in their minds, they were guarding the same demonic lion. Destroy the formation. A voice rang out in their minds. Without any hesitation, they unleashed their most powerful attacks towards the teleportation portal, destroying it. In an instant, the sound of explosions rang out through the entire mountain range, causing the expression of the expert who was in the midst of checking the mines to drastically change. The faces of the two immortal emperors also changed, instantly turning pale. Generally speaking, no one dared to touch the mineral veins, but once someone did, they knew better than anyone else what it meant. It meant that they would die. Bandits who dared to rob the mines on the opening day, there was no need to doubt them. They were definitely great bandits. Hence, one of the immortal emperors directly took out his messaging crystal and sent a strand of immortal sense in, "Monarch, there are bandits attacking. The teleportation array has been destroyed." As the sound of his voice faded, a stifling pressure bore down from the sky. A group of experts descended from the sky and without exception, all of them were existences at the immortal king realm or above. In addition, all of them exuded the sharpness of someone who had experienced hundreds of battles. In the supreme ancient immortal realms, bandits were even more terrifying and dangerous compared to the ordinary armies of monarchs. Even if they were at the same level, they were all fugitives who wandered the line between life and death. If they were the slightest bit careless, they would die. In the immortal realms, there were very few bandits because it was too dangerous. If they plundered the treasures of a world overlord, they would be listed as wanted criminals. Although ordinary minds wouldn't alarm the world overlords, their subordinates had to take responsibility. Given how vast a world was, what sort of status did the world overlord have? It was impossible for them to personally attend to everything. If not, why would they have so many subordinates? But if he didn't act, there were 9 world palace lords below him and there were monarchs below them. Bandits would face boundless pursuit until they died. Hence, the death rate of bandits was extremely high. Very few people would choose to become bandits, but those who dared to become bandits were all extremely ruthless people. Qin Wenyan still didn't understand what was going on. Yang Yun'er, who was at the side, instantly turned pale. She subconsciously pulled Qin Wenyan. Bandits? Bandits? Qin Wentian's eyes narrowed. When he just entered the supreme ancient immortal realms and arrived at the Wind Thunder City, Jialan Mingyue already slandered him as a bandit and wanted to use this reason to deal with them. But who would have thought that the first time he came out from the mines, he would actually encounter true bandits? What made him shocked was that these bandits seemed more like an army compared to the subordinates of the monarchs. Without exception, all of them were clad in armor, from head to toe. All of them were equipped with different types of divine armors that covered their entire bodies. Being a bandit was a matter of life and death. Who would be willing to reveal their identities so easily? For some cautious bandits, they would wash their hands of the bandits after they made a fortune and directly sneak into the city. Others wouldn't even know that they were bandits. In the air, a terrifying gigantic beast descended. This was a fearsome demonic lion. Its eyes gleamed with a jade-green light, exuding an extremely demonic aura. Evil Emperor. The two immortal emperors turned even paler. As immortal emperors, even they felt fear in their hearts. That's right, the evil emperor referred to this lion. It had a pair of terrifying evil eyes. It was a supremely powerful demon emperor. Naturally, this demon emperor wasn't the leader of the bandits. The evil emperor was the mount of the Knight Empyrean who once dominated an entire region. The Knight Empyrean was a legendary bandit in the entire lifelong realm. His strength was terrifying to the extreme and he plundered many mines, including an extremely valuable one. This matter even alarmed the Realm Lord. 2 of the World Palace lords joined forces and laid down a heavenly net, capturing the Knight Empyrean in one fell swoop. Finally, the Knight Empyrean was killed on the spot. This was something that happened many years ago. But today, after so many years, the Mount of the Night Empyrean, the evil emperor, actually appeared in the territory of the Jialan monarch. Was this a revival from the ashes? Wait, although these bandits were very powerful, they weren't the same as the Night Empyrean's subordinates back then. The Night Empyrean's subordinates were all captured in one fell swoop. If the Night Empyrean was still around, how could he possibly rob such an ordinary mine? The two immortal emperors felt a chill in their hearts. They naturally didn't forget that legendary bandit. Back then, one of the two palace lords who participated in the hunt for the Night Empyrean was none other than the Livefire Empyrean. The 9 monarchs under the Livefire Empyrean had all participated in that battle back then. Who are you? An immortal emperor stared at a slender figure standing on the back of the evil emperor. That figure was also fully armored, clad in silver armor. Only a pair of resplendent eyes could be seen, as well as that slender figure. No one replied. The entire space was so quiet that it was terrifying. Those experts in the air started to descend. In an instant, a stifling pressure bore down on them, causing countless people to tremble. What should we do? Yang Yun stared at Qin Wenin. She didn't expect that she would be able to survive in the mine. However, just now, a glimmer of hope appeared in her heart. Was she going to despair again now? At this moment, Qin Wentian's expression was extremely unsightly to behold. There were several immortal emperors in the air, and that lion was even more terrifying. It wasn't something he could contend against. The two immortal emperors guarding this place all had looks of terror on their faces. Everyone kill them. No one is allowed to flee. If not, when the monarchs descend, they will be killed without mercy. An immortal emperor commanded. The expressions of everyone turned even paler. Did they not see them as humans? With such a lineup, how could they fight against them? Were they courting death? None of you are allowed to move. If not, we will kill without mercy. A cold voice rang out from the air. After that, several experts directly rushed towards the two immortal emperors. Flee! At this moment, the crowd couldn't care so much anymore. Flee! If they remained here, they didn't know what their fates would be. If they fled, although they would still die, it was still a chance of survival. Chapter 1544. The battle instantly erupted. Chaotic law domains engulfed this entire space. One of them cursed, "I told you guys not to move recklessly, but you guys still want to flee? You guys don't even know a path to survival." After speaking, he blasted out with a punch, directly killing a group of fleeing experts. The entire space was in chaos. Although these bandits had the absolute advantage in terms of strength, they weren't that many in number. In fact, they didn't even have as many people as the guards. Let alone the fact that there were also many miners. Upon seeing the battle between the guards and the bandits, how could the miners not flee? Qin Wenin glanced at the battlefield and instantly understood that this was a one-sided battle. These guards weren't a match for the bandits at all. Those two immortal emperors were even more terrifying. They directly soared up into the air and fought, suppressing their opponents with absolute superiority. You guys told us to fight, but you chose to flee instead. Bastard. Someone cursed. So it turned out that the two immortal emperors knew they couldn't win against the bandits and actually chose to flee. However, the two immortal emperors chasing after them were much stronger. How could they allow them to flee? What made people feel even more despair was that the terrifying lion as well as the slender figure standing on the lion's back didn't move at all. Upon seeing the two immortal emperors fleeing, the figure on the lion's back slowly floated up. After that, the lion rushed towards the immortal emperors who were fighting far away. Its terrifying evil eyes directly pierced into their minds. The two immortal emperors under the Jialan monarch all let out howls of grief. Astral light from the sky rained down unceasingly, but it was unable to change their fate of death. So these are bandits. Qin Wentian stared at the slaughter in this space. These bandits even dared to kill the immortal emperors under the Jialan monarch. Not only were these people subordinates of the Jialan monarch, they were also subordinates of the Livefire Empyrean. This was the first time he encountered bandits, and they were actually so powerful. Qin Wenyan silently cursed his bad luck. He was harmed so badly by that woman Jialan Mingyue, sending him to this mine of all places. Let's leave. Qin Wenyan spoke softly to Yang Yun-er as they silently retreated in a certain direction. Qin Wenyan, you can't escape with me. Go by yourself. Yang Yun-er transmitted her voice. Although she was in despair, she didn't want to implicate Qin Wenyan. If she hadn't met Qin Wenyan in the mine, she might have already died. How would we know if we don't try? Qin Wenyan didn't say much. He forcefully pulled her up into the air. The door of space flashed, and he stepped into it, traversing the void. Someone noticed Qin Wenyan's situation and glanced at his cultivation base. After that, 2 peak-stage immortal kings soared through the air with lightning speed. One of them was also proficient in spatial energy and directly chased after Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan wanted to use the door of space to traverse the void again. However, he only saw his opponent grabbing out with his palm, causing the spatial law here to be in chaos. Qin Wenyan had no way to traverse the void. The other peak-stage immortal king also appeared. He soared through the air as an incomparably terrifying pressure bore down on Qin Wenyan and Yang Yun. Yang Yun-er directly coughed out a mouthful of blood as her countenance turned pale. Sir, we are just miners. If you want immortal stones, we can give them to you. Qin Wenyan took out his interspatial ring. He didn't care about these 2, but there were still immortal emperors over there. In fact, even the leader hasn't acted yet. How would he be so impulsive as to kill them? That would only be courting death. That immortal king snorted coldly. He stomped through the air again. Yang Yun-er groaned in misery as she coughed out more blood. Qin Wenyan's law energy enveloped her. His eyes turned extremely cold as he stared up at the sky. I'm willing to give up my interspatial ring. Don't be too ruthless. Qin Wenyan placed the interspatial ring in the air. As long as the other party nodded, he would give it to them. He could obtain more immortal stones, but he only had a single life. He didn't want to die again. Let alone the fact that he only managed to survive back then, it was pure luck. We have already missed our chance. We want the item, we want your life as well. That immortal king ruthlessly stomped down as a supreme pressure bore down on Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan could clearly feel a formless pressure boring into him. If he was really an ordinary mid-stage immortal king, he would have died in a single strike. Why do you have to force me? Qin Wenyan's eyes abruptly flashed with a cold killing intent. In an instant his eyes turned extremely demonic. The expression of that peak-stage immortal king in the air changed. After that, he saw a dimension created by an eye technique, and in an instant, he felt as though he was trapped within a pair of eyes, trapped within an illusion. Die! A cold voice rang out. That immortal king only saw a pure and flawless sword of light descending from the sky. His entire body trembled as a look of terror appeared on his face. However, it was already too late. The sword intent pierced through him. Qin Wenyan stepped out and grabbed him by the neck as he icily spoke. Since you are courting death, I will grant it to you. As the sound of his voice faded, a terrifying light flashed. That immortal king screamed in agony as his body was slowly disintegrated into nothingness. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. It was too fast, so fast that the immortal king who was proficient in spatial energy didn't even have time to react before he discovered that his companion had already been killed. His law energy gushed forth as spatial swords shot out. However, he only saw that Qin Wenyan was hugging another immortal king as a spatial shield appeared before him, blocking all the attacks. After that, that immortal king was also trapped within the eye technique dimension, unable to extricate himself. Die! Once Qin Wenyan acted, how would he show any mercy? In the blink of an eye, yet another peak stage immortal king died. Emichim? The immortal kings from afar saw this scene. That immortal king's eyes gleamed as he turned to Qin Wenyan. After that, he stepped out and instantly, a group of immortal kings moved towards Qin Wenyan. Immortal emperors, 2 immortal emperors. Qin Wenyan's expression turned ashen. He once again used the power of the spatial gate to traverse through space. However, he only saw the immortal emperor stretching out his hand and grabbing at the air. A formless energy directly severed the spatial law energy, causing the spatial gate before Qin Wenyan to vanish. Several peak-stage immortal kings and an immortal emperor stood before Qin Wenyan and Yang Yun. Yun, seems like I won't be able to protect you. Qin Wenyan spoke to Yang Yun-er, who was beside him. Yang Yun-er's eyes instantly turned red. She stared at the immortal king. Senior, we were only forced to come here to mine. Why must you kill us? I only gave the order to kill the others. I didn't give the order to kill the miners. You guys were the ones who wanted to escape. That immortal king spoke. What made Qin Wenyan bewildered was that this voice was clear and melodious. It was the voice of a female. The leader of this group of bandits was actually a female immortal emperor. And now you killed my people. The female immortal emperor stared at Qin Wenyan, her eyes gleaming with a bright light. As the sound of her voice faded, an immortal emperor walked out from the side. In an instant, a beam of light cascaded down from the sky, landing on him. The constellations in the area shone brilliantly as emperor light flashed. If I die in battle, I hope that Senior can spare her life. Qin Wenyan pushed Yang Yun-er away as he soared into the air, facing an immortal emperor alone. Qin Wenyan. Yang Yun-er's eyes turned red. Those bandits all had strange looks on their faces. This fellow was only a mid-stage immortal king and he still wanted to challenge an immortal emperor? Overestimating his own capabilities. That immortal emperor was bathed in emperor light, causing the entire space to tremble. He clenched his fist as a powerful palm imprint manifested, containing a fearsome might as it shot towards Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan lifted his fist and punched out. With a thunderous boom, the palm imprint was actually shattered by Qin Wenyan, causing the eyes of everyone to narrow. At the immortal emperor realm, even a casual attack was sufficient to destroy a peak-stage immortal king. But right now, a mid-stage immortal king actually dared to clash head-on with an immortal emperor? Haha. That immortal emperor laughed uproariously. A five-fingered palm imprint appeared behind him as astral light cascaded down from the sky. That palm imprint transformed into a gigantic mountain that blotted out the sky. With a flick of his finger, boundless radiance enveloped the area. To immortal kings, this was akin to doomsday. But at this moment, Qin Wenyan's body radiated an incomparably holy light. It was actually a boundless Buddha light. At this moment, he resembled a world-shaking ancient Buddha. The power of light circulated around him, making him look even more holy and majestic. A gigantic Buddha appeared behind him, with a myriad of arms, resembling 1,000-armed Buddha. The light of Buddha illuminated the world, and it also contained the might of great light. It was like the great light 1,000-armed Buddha. Countless arms blasted out at the same time, blasting towards the five-fingered palm. The airflow between the two became incomparably violent and terrifying, and all the attacks were shattered. The female immortal emperor's exposed eyes gleamed with a bright light. The immortal emperor in front of her was blocked by a mid-stage immortal king consecutively. Flames of rage erupted from him as a fearsome might erupted forth. In an instant, the entire area was illuminated by the light of emperors. Behind Qin Wenyan, a pair of terrifying eyes appeared. His eyes also turned extremely bizarre. With a single glance, the immortal emperor in front of him felt as though he was in a dimension created by an eye technique. That's enough. A gentle voice rang out, causing Qin Wenyan, who wanted to take the initiative, to attack to start. He instantly retracted his attack, causing him to start as well. He inclined his head and stared at the female immortal emperor. In the future, you will follow me. The female immortal emperor's exposed eyes had a radiant smile on her face as she spoke to Qin Wenyan. Upon seeing the light in her eyes, Qin Wenyan had a strange look on his face. Follow her? Was he really going to become a bandit? However, under such a situation, could he reject? That would simply be courting death. Fine, Senior. Can you spare my friend? Qin Wenyan pointed to Yang Yun. Just a little lass. That immortal emperor clearly didn't care about Yang Yun. He directly turned and left. That immortal emperor who was fighting against Qin Wenyan coldly glanced at him, as though he was unhappy. However, He didn't say anything and followed after the immortal emperor. The other experts all cast a deep glance at Qin Wenyan. This fellow actually managed to gain her favor. Chapter 1545. Boo! Qin Wenyan heaved a sigh of relief. How dangerous! If this female immortal emperor really wanted to kill him, it would have been truly dangerous. Although his 7 astral souls in addition to the undying scripture could be considered an undying monster, if the disparity between them was too great, it would still be dangerous. If his opponent really destroyed his soul, would he still be able to revive? Yang Yun-er's beautiful eyes landed on Qin Wenyan. She didn't expect that she would actually be able to survive. Yun, take care. Qin Wenyan transmitted his voice to Yang Yun. Yang Yun-er nodded as her eyes turned red. The two of them were strangers that met by chance, and their friendship couldn't be said to be very deep. However, Qin Wenyan had already done enough for her. Qin Wenyan stepped out and followed after those people. From afar, that terrifying green-eyed gigantic beast had already returned. Its huge eyes glanced at Qin Wenyan, causing Qin Wenyan to feel his soul trembling. He didn't dare to be careless in his heart. This gigantic beast was definitely a supremely powerful demon emperor that he couldn't afford to antagonize. Earlier, from that glance, he understood that the green-eyed beast was also a demon emperor that was proficient in soul techniques. Inclining his head, the 2 monarchs under the Jialan monarch had already died. His guards were all killed as well as those who resisted. Their fates were all extremely miserable. A bunch of fools. We gave them a chance to live, but they are all courting death. A person cursed in a depressed manner. Below, there were people sweeping the battlefield, collecting all the immortal stones in the mines. What should we do with these people? Beside the female immortal emperor, an expert asked. As he spoke, he didn't forget to glance at Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan's eyes narrowed. He instantly understood the intentions of the other party. These people were all armed to the teeth, and none of them had revealed their true identities. If they brought Qin Wenyan away, it would undoubtedly leave a hole in their disguise. In that case, they would have to consider silencing all of them. The female immortal emperor turned her gaze to Qin Wenyan only to hear Qin Wenyan speaking. I'm proficient in illusions and can change my appearance. Let's go. The female immortal emperor calmly spoke, her voice filled with a hint of laziness. The experts all climbed onto the back of the gigantic lion. Qin Wenyan also followed them. The gigantic lion soared up into the air and soared through the clouds with shocking speed. What a terrifying army! Qin Wenyan sighed in his heart. This was the first time he met a bandit, but it had subverted his conjecture about bandits. Moreover, he himself would become a bandit. This was really a matter that made him speechless. The clouds churned, no one spoke. Only the whistling sound of the wind could be heard from behind. The speed of the gigantic beast was much faster than sound. After a long time, Qin Wenyan discovered that there were more and more people getting down from the back of the gigantic beast, each of them leaving alone. Very swiftly, other than the female immortal emperor, there was another immortal emperor, 3 peak-stage immortal kings, and Qin Wenyan. We're almost there. That immortal emperor reminded the female immortal emperor who had her eyes closed. Ancient. The female immortal emperor calmly replied. After that, the armors on their bodies were all removed, revealing their original appearances. The female immortal emperor turned her head and glanced at Qin Wenyan. She then turned back and smiled, exuding an innate charm. Just a single smile was enough to cause one's entire body to go soft. Phoenix eyes, willow leaf brows, a flawlessly exquisite face, as well as skin that seemed as though it could be broken by the wind. This bandit leader's countenance didn't lose out in the slightest when compared to the supreme beauty of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, Princess Kitamura. It was just that their auras were completely different. Princess Kitamura's aura was cold, but this female immortal emperor gave off an incomparably gentle and charming aura. She sat there, her jade-like legs were slightly bent, revealing her snow-white thighs, extremely sexy. Her body was like a water snake, able to mesmerize people with a single glance. For ordinary characters, they would instantly fall into her charms. What was even more unbearable was that after removing her armor, she was actually only wearing a thin red dress. The dress further accentuated her flawless features and snow-white skin. From Qin Wentian's angle, he could even see the snow-white skin below her neck. How alluring was that? Mph. The immortal emperor at the side snorted coldly when he saw Qin Wentian's appearance. He then spoke with disdain. Palace Lord favors him? Seems like he's merely of this level. Qin Wentian was awakened by that cold snort. He could sense that he had lost his composure and couldn't help but feel embarrassed. He hurriedly shifted his gaze away, not daring to stare. This female immortal emperor wasn't merely a beauty, she was also a powerful immortal emperor, the leader of the bandits. It would be extremely easy for her to kill him if she wanted to. However, he was still shocked in his heart. He didn't expect that the female leader of the bandits would actually be such a seductive beauty. She was so beautiful to such an extent that even he couldn't help but lose his composure. Right now, his state of heart was extraordinary and he had seen many beauties. One could very well imagine how strong the temptation of this immortal emperor was. Palace Lord? Qin Wentian's eyes flashed when he heard this title. Impossible. How could a world palace lord of the 9 world palaces seize such a mine? It should be some other world palace lord. Palace Lord, it should only be a title. Before our Palace Lord, who would be able to resist the temptation? Although this brat's combat prowess isn't bad, after seeing the true appearance of our Palace Lord, the immortal king at the back laughed. What's your name? The female smiled. Every frown and every smile of hers was enough to stir the souls of people, causing them to unknowingly fall into her charms. Qin Wentian. You can address me like the others in the future. The female surveyed Qin Wentian, her beautiful eyes flashing with interest. Your face is truly handsome and your demeanor is extraordinary. It should be related to the law attribute energy you cultivate in, right? I'm a little reluctant to ask you to change your appearance. Palace Lord praises me too much. Qin Wentian was indeed more handsome compared to before. He also felt that this might have something to do with his astral souls. Astral souls from the 8th heavenly layer, Buddha Tao astral souls and the radiant astral soul were all able to change one's demeanor. When he unleashed these laws in combat, the effect was even more obvious. An intense illusory energy gushed forth from Qin Wentian. In an instant, the lines on his face changed as his entire demeanor changed. Very swiftly, he became a completely different person. What a powerful law attribute astral soul. The female immortal emperor smiled as she glanced at Qin Wentian. After that, she turned her gaze to the gigantic beast below. Little lion, it's enough. That gigantic beast instantly shrank. In just an instant, it became a demonic beast that was even smaller than an ordinary lion. How could there still be any demonic chi radiating from it? It leapt into the embrace of the female immortal emperor, completely transforming into a pet lion. The female immortal emperor waved her hand. A moment later, a divine sedan appeared. She directly stepped into it and lay down on the soft seat inside. An immortal emperor and 3 peak stage immortal kings directly became the bearers, lifting the sedan as they moved forward. Qin Wentian was dumbfounded, silently sighing at how terrifying these bandits were. In the blink of an eye, they had completely changed their appearance. He initially thought that these bandits were a power that was hiding in the vast wilderness and were fleeing in all directions. Who would have thought that after they took off their armor, they wouldn't need to worry about being seen by others? Why are you in a daze? Come on in. A lazy voice drifted out from the sedan. Qin Wentian was startled. He glanced inside and replied, Junior doesn't dare to. Palace Lord, why don't we get him to carry the sedan? The immortal emperor in front smiled. The female immortal emperor smiled at him. That immortal emperor's expression instantly turned ugly as he coldly glared at Qin Wentian. This immortal emperor was none other than the one who fought against Qin Wentian earlier. Do you think this mistress will eat you up? A gentle voice rang out. Qin Wentian braced his scalp and stepped through the curtains. Upon seeing that supreme beauty lazily lying there, Qin Wentian averted his eyes, not daring to look at her. This scene was too beautiful. Am I beautiful? The female immortal emperor smiled, her charm seeping into his bones. Qin Wenyin nodded. Palace Lord is indeed beautiful. Sit here. The female immortal emperor stretched out her fair legs and tapped on a spot beside Qin Wentian's calf. Qin Wentian nodded and sat there. As long as he turned his head, he would be able to see those beautiful legs that could cause his blood to boil. The laws you are proficient in are Buddha, space, illusion, sword, and light. Also, the laws of each of these laws far surpass those at the same level as you. For someone like you, why would you appear in this mine? Not only that, you are even a minor? The female immortal emperor casually asked. Qin Wentian's heart tightened. She still didn't completely believe him. I've offended the Jialan monarch. Qin Wentian replied. Tell me about it. The female immortal emperor smiled. This matter has to start from the time when I left the mountain with my senior sister. Qin Wentian fabricated an excuse. In any case, the Jialan monarch was attracted to his senior sister, Princess Kitamura, for her beauty and banished him to a minor. He believed that even if the Jialan monarch investigated this matter, the results would still be the same. Did you guys hear that? When we return, send someone to the Jialan Emperor city to investigate. The female immortal emperor casually smiled. The bearers outside nodded, but Qin Wentian felt a chill run down his spine. Being able to move the Jialan monarch's heart, that person must be a supreme beauty. How does your senior sister compare to me? The female immortal emperor smiled. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. After that, he replied, although Palace Lord is extremely rare in the mortal world, my senior sister is similarly devastatingly beautiful. There aren't many who can compare to her. Amichem? The female started. After that, she started laughing. The forebearers outside all laughed as well. As they laughed, they soared through the air. Qin Wentian glanced over. He only saw a gigantic city that resembled a gigantic dragon hovering in the air. Palace Mistress, what place is this? Qin Wentian curiously asked. The most flourishing transaction city in the Li-Fire Palace, Heavenly City. The female stood up. The palanquin sped through the air. That majestic city grew larger and larger in Qin Wentian's field of vision. At a mine extremely far away from Heavenly City, the Jialan monarch led his experts here. When he saw the state of the mine, his expression turned so heavy that it was terrifying. 2 immortal emperors under him had died in battle here. Capture all of them alive for interrogation. The Jialan monarch coldly spoke. After that, an immortal emperor stepped out as his immortal sense swept through the area. Not far away from the Jialan monarch, a supreme beauty stood there. This was none other than Princess Kitamura. Right now, her aura was extremely cold as she walked towards Jialan Mingyue. What are you doing? Jialan Mingyue seemed to be a little afraid of Princess Kitamura. She hurriedly retreated. Pa! Princess Kitamura's palm slammed out, directly sending Jialan Mingyue flying through the air. Jialan Mingyue coughed out a mouthful of blood as her countenance turned pale. Chapter 1546. Mingyu steadied herself and stretched out her fair hand to wipe off the blood at the corner of her mouth. Her gaze was extremely cold as she stared at Princess Kitamura. Slut, you dare to hit me? Jialan Mingyue's voice was extremely cold. When has she ever suffered such humiliation before? Princess Kitamura stepped out as a terrifying cold underworld energy gushed forth, freezing all life. In an instant, Jialan Mingyue's entire body was covered in frost as she felt the threat of death looming over her. Yuang, stop. The Jialan monarch walked over. His palm landed on Jialan Mingyue's body, expelling the frost energy. He stared at Princess Kitamura. Yuang, what are you doing? Minors are usually criminals or even slaves. You actually allowed Qin Wentian to do the mining? Princess Kitamura's eyes were cold to the extreme as she stared at Jialan Mingyue. You want to kill me? Jialan Mingyue could sense the killing intent from Princess Kitamura. Her eyes flashed with a blood-red light. Yu Huang, there are still many survivors. Maybe he's fine. The Jialan monarch spoke. Princess Kitamura stared at the Jalan monarch as she coldly spoke. Although I'm an attendant of your emperor palace, I'm personally appointed by the Liefire Empyrean. You can appoint your daughter to be the city lord, but your daughter actually dared to make my junior apprentice brother mine. Right now, it's unknown whether he is dead or alive. Jalan monarch, if something happens to Qin Wenyin, I will definitely make Jalan Mingyue accompany him in death. Father, did you hear that? This bitch wants to kill me in front of you. Are you going to abandon your daughter for the sake of beauty? Jalan Mingyue let out a low-sounding roar. Her eyes were bloodshot. She was pampered since young, and in the Jalan monarch's territory, no matter where she went, she would be extremely imposing. Today, she was sent flying by Princess Kitamura, humiliated and threatened to kill her. Speak less. The Jalan monarch's face sank. Father, it's been so many years, could it be that you still haven't played with her? Or perhaps he had played with her feelings and no longer cared about his daughter. Does she want to kill me? Jalan Mingyue had always been doted on and would often act coquettishly in the past. But now, when someone wanted to kill her, her father actually told her to speak less. Shut up. The Jalan monarch roared. A terrifying might gushed forth from him. Jalan Mingyue was so frightened that her countenance turned pale. She stared at her father in a daze. Jalan Mingyue, remember the words you said today. Jalan monarch, you better discipline your daughter well. Princess Kitamura coldly spoke. After that, her silhouette flickered as she directly soared through the air, leaving to search for traces of Qin Wenyin. The Jalan monarch had a sinister look on his face as he coldly stared at Jalan Mingyue. He transmitted his voice. It's fine if I dote on you normally. But now, you are always acting out of line. Do you think I don't know how lawless you are in Wind Thunder City? Now, Princess Kitamura is the palace master's favorite, and she is being nurtured by the palace master. You dare to humiliate her like this? Are you looking for death? Jalan Mingyue started when she heard her father's voice transmission. She then spoke. You are a monarch under the Liefire Empyrean. Are you still afraid of her? In addition, father sighed. What do you know? I'm naturally not afraid of her. But what about you? You basically don't know anything. The Jalan monarch coldly spoke. After we return, give up your position as the city lord and go to the emperor city. Let your mother discipline you well. After speaking, the Jalan monarch flicked his sleeves and walked towards the people he captured. His expression was heavy. Back then, he lusted after Princess Kitamura's beauty and brought her to the Liefire Palace. But what happened next was something he didn't expect. The Liefire Empyrean actually had the intention to nurture Princess Kitamura. After that, the Liefire Empyrean arranged for Princess Kitamura to stay by his side. On the surface, it was to serve him, but in truth, it was to monitor him. This caused him to feel very uncomfortable. Right now, Princess Kitamura could be considered to be someone on the Liefire Empyrean's side. He didn't dare to do anything to Princess Kitamura. Monarch, these are all minors. According to what they said, our people were all killed. Those who survived are all minors. The interrogators bowed when they saw the Jalan monarch walking over with a heavy expression. Ask them if they know of a man named Qin Wenyin. The Jalan monarch coldly spoke. Yes. More and more people were captured and interrogated. However, they basically couldn't obtain too much information about the bandits. They only knew that the bandits were fully armed and none of them revealed their true appearances. Other than this, there was also a terrifying demon emperor lion. The Jalan monarch already knew about this. That lion was none other than the evil emperor, the mount of the legendary Knight Empyrean. Finally, news about Qin Wenyin was obtained. But the strange thing was that the Qin Wenyin they spoke of was actually an immortal king expert. His combat prowess was extremely high and he was brought away by the bandits. After Princess Kitamura learned of this, her heart trembled as she heaved a sigh of relief. Immortal king, seems like there's no mistake about it. Qin Wenyin must have cultivated back to the immortal king realm. Who would have thought that this fellow's life would be so tough? Even the leader of the bandits took a liking to him. She could only hope that nothing would happen to him. After Jalan Mingyue learned of this, she immediately claimed that Qin Wenyin was a traitor who betrayed the bandits. However, Princess Kitamura couldn't be bothered with her. She would settle this debt in the future. Heavenly City was located in the Lightfire Palace's territory. It was built in the boundless mountain range and was a supremely powerful city. This city had a long history. The female bandit leader didn't lie to Qin Wenyan. Heavenly City was indeed the most flourishing trading city in the Lightfire Palace's territory. Over here, a large number of treasures would be traded daily. There were many extremely powerful powers stationed in this city, and immortal kings could be seen everywhere. In fact, if one walked on the streets, there was a high possibility that the people they saw were immortal emperors. This was the foundation of the supreme ancient immortal realms. The Thousand Feathers Palace was one of the major powers in Heavenly City. They were extremely powerful and had several immortal emperors as their subordinates. Their main business was the trading of divine weapons, innate techniques, and all sorts of treasures. They were quite famous in Heavenly City. Naturally, the most famous thing about the Thousand Feathers Palace wasn't the trading of treasures. It was because of the palace mistress of the Thousand Feathers Palace. Because the palace mistress of the Thousand Feathers Palace was known as the #1 beauty of Heavenly City. The vast and majestic Heavenly City was filled with beauties. The palace mistress of the Thousand Feathers Palace, Fairy Thousand Feathers, might not be the most outstanding in terms of beauty. But with her beauty, in addition to her powerful cultivation base, as well as her charismatic demeanor, she could easily cause people to fall for her charms. No one dared to doubt her title as the #1 beauty of Heavenly City. In Heavenly City, many people would long for a chance to see Fairy Thousand Feathers. Hence, the transactions in the Thousand Feathers Palace were extremely lively. Many people wanted to come here to see the #1 beauty of Heavenly City. However, what made people in Heavenly City not to think was that right now, there was one person who was extremely afraid to see Fairy Thousand Feathers. For example, at this moment, in an elegant room, Fairy Thousand Feathers sat on a soft chair. Her beautiful legs were propped up on the armrest. She who was clad in a long white dress exuded a sense of purity and charm. This was especially so when the dress slid down to her thighs. It was simply unbearable. "Do I look so ugly?" Yi Qianyu stared at Qin Wenyan with a gentle smile. However, Qin Wenyan didn't even dare to look at her. Palace mistress is extremely beautiful. This subordinate doesn't dare to profane you. Qin Wenyan lowered his head. "Oh, have your eyes ever profaned me before?" Yi Qianyu giggled, staring at Qin Wenyan, causing Qin Wenyan to shiver. "Don't worry, men aren't all like this. If you want to look, just look. There's no need to be so hesitant." Yi Qianyu's voice was incomparably gentle. Qin Wenyan inclined his head, only to see that alluring figure of hers. "The news has arrived. You can be considered to be honest and didn't lie. I've also found out about the person you asked me to help you investigate." Yi Qianyu spoke. "How is she?" Qin Wenyan inclined his head and stared at Yi Qianyu as he asked. The person he asked to investigate was naturally Princess Kitamura. Although back then he already knew that the Jialan monarch wouldn't dare to touch Princess Kitamura, it has been so many years since they last met. He couldn't help but feel worried. Yi Qianyu had a smile that was not a smile on her face as she stared at Qin Wenyan. "Why are you so nervous?" "Palace mistress, I have a deep relationship with my senior sister. I'm naturally nervous." Qin Wenyan replied. "Seems like this palace's charm isn't that great. I can't even compare to that woman from afar. I heard that she's a cold beauty." Yi Qianyu laughed. "Don't worry, she's fine. The Lightfire Empyrean regards her highly and placed her by the Jialan monarch's side." "Many thanks, palace mistress." Qin Wenyan heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. "Can you let me see your astral souls now?" Yi Qianyu smiled charmingly. Qin Wenyan felt somewhat awkward. This female vixen seemed to be extremely curious about his astral souls. She had already requested to see his astral souls many times. It was just that his astral souls were truly a little unique. He didn't know what her attitude would be after he revealed them. Seeing that Qin Wenyan didn't say anything, Yi Qianyu slowly stood up and walked out. Her sexy dress fluttered in the wind as her long hair casually draped over her shoulders. Every frown and smile of hers could move the hearts of those who saw it. Yi Qinyu walked to the side of Qin Wenyin as a fragrance wafted over. She was slightly shorter than Qin Wenyin and had a slender figure with perfect proportions. Qin Wenyin didn't dare to look her in the eye. He lowered his head, and after that, he saw a scene that caused his blood to surge. He was so frightened that he instantly turned away. That snow-white scene was simply soul-stirring. Yi Qinyu laughed. "What did you see?" "Palace mistress, please spare me," Qin Wenyin begged. "Spare you? This mistress has never been so gentle to others before. You have seen what you can see, and you have also seen what you shouldn't have seen. Tell me, what should I do?" Yi Qinyu laughed. Qin Wenyin was on the verge of tears. He knew that he wouldn't be able to escape this time around. "Palace mistress, please help Junior keep this a secret." "Right." Yi Qinyu nodded, smiling at Qin Wenyin, only to see Qin Wenyin turning around and facing her. After that, he released his astral souls one after another. Very swiftly, 7 astral souls were released at the same time. In an instant, the entire room was enveloped by a boundless radiance so bright that it was blinding to the eyes. Yi Qinyu initially thought that she had already made her preparations. Upon seeing the resplendent screen of light, she involuntarily took a step back as a dumbfounded expression appeared on her face. But very swiftly, that incomparably charming smile appeared on her face again as her beautiful eyes blinked at Qin Wenyin. Qin Wenyin bitterly smiled as he retracted his astral souls. He waited for Yi Qinyu to question him, only to see Yi Qinyu casually smiling. "All right, you can leave now. Since your identity has already been investigated, you can move about freely in Heavenly City in the future." Yi Qinyu didn't say anything. Qin Wenyin started. He stared at her in bewilderment before nodding. Qin Wenyin bids his farewell. After speaking, he turned and left. "If you have time, come and chat with me. But don't ever think of running away. If not, this mistress will be very sad." Yi Qinyu giggled. Qin Wenyin was so frightened that he quickened his steps and fled. Yi Qinyu laughed so hard that her body trembled. Chapter 1547. For the next period of time, Qin Wenyin would often roam around Heavenly City after changing his appearance, feeling the charm of this majestic city. This majestic city was incomparably flourishing, with experts as common as the clouds. There were also countless treasures within. In this place, as long as you have enough immortal stones, there was no treasure you couldn't exchange for. Qin Wenyin purchased a messaging crystal. This treasure was extremely useful and could be used to seal immortal sense within. For example, if Qin Wenyin wanted to contact Princess Kitamura, he only needed to seal a strand of Princess Kitamura's immortal sense into Qin Wenyan's messaging crystal. When Qin Wenyin wanted to speak to her, he only needed to send his own immortal sense into the crystal to communicate with Princess Kitamura. However, because the materials required to forge them weren't simple, the price was very high. Qin Wenyin plundered the mines and initially thought that he was already very rich. But after roaming around Heavenly City for a few days, he discovered that he was truly pitifully poor. There were many treasures that he didn't even dare to hope for. For example, some supremely powerful Emperor-ranked weapons. Each of these weapons required a large amount of Emperor-ranked immortal stones as the base material, in addition to many other precious materials. In addition, there were also grandmasters forging them. From this, one could very well imagine how expensive they were. In addition, the Emperor-ranked weapons of the supreme ancient immortal realms were much more superior compared to the divine weapons of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. Even if your cultivation base wasn't high enough, you would still be able to unleash the full power of the weapons. Hence, those from the major clans and clans of the supreme ancient immortal realms would have an innate advantage. The stronger a world was, the more terrifying the disparity between the upper and lower levels would be. Naturally, among the unaffiliated cultivators, bandits were also very wealthy. Even if they robbed an ordinary mine, they would still be able to reap bountiful rewards. It was just that they were playing with their lives. Although the Thousand Feathers Palace mistress appeared carefree, once people discovered that she was a bandit, she would face endless pursuit. During these days, some of the core members of the Thousand Feathers Palace received orders from the Palace Lord to collect Light Attribute and Life Attribute Emperor Stones. Moreover, they had to be high-grade Emperor Stones. The Palace Lord personally gave the order to collect Emperor Stones in large quantities. Although everyone was puzzled, they still did as they were told. With regards to this point, Qin Wenyan didn't know. However, the Barbarian Emperor knew. Hence, he sought out Qin Wenyan. "Senior, what can I do for you?" Qin Wenyan stared at the Barbarian Emperor as he asked. This Barbarian Emperor was none other than the immortal Emperor he fought against back then when they were seizing the mine. "Come, let's go to the battle formation. You and I will fight." The Barbarian Emperor coldly spoke. Qin Wenyan could see the coldness in the Barbarian Emperor's eyes. He didn't know when he had offended the Barbarian Emperor. In any case, ever since he came to the Thousand Feathers Palace, this Barbarian Emperor seemed to be extremely unhappy with him. Every time they met, he would treat him coldly. "Senior is an immortal emperor. I know I'm inferior." Qin Wenyan rejected. What a joke! No matter if he could defeat the Barbarian Emperor or not, this place was the Thousand Feathers Palace. No matter what, the Barbarian Emperor was a doyen of the Thousand Feathers Palace, a trusted aide of that demoness. There was no benefits for him to offend the Barbarian Emperor. Since he was living under the Barbarian Emperor's roof, he had to keep a low profile. The battle back then didn't determine the victor. Your combat prowess is so strong that even the Palace Lord regards you highly. How can you be a coward? The Barbarian Emperor berated. "Leave with me. Junior is only a mid-stage immortal king. Senior, why must you make things difficult for me?" Qin Wenyan frowned, feeling somewhat unhappy in his heart. What cowardice! You, an immortal emperor, came here to challenge him, a mid-stage immortal king, and you still dare to speak in such a righteous manner? However, Qin Wenyan couldn't be bothered to say more. He would avoid it if he could. "Today you have no choice but to fight." The Barbarian Emperor coldly snorted. He stomped down, causing a crisp cracking sound to ring out. Cracks appeared on the ground. Although the ground was made from special materials, it still couldn't withstand the force of an immortal emperor's stomp. "Senior, why must you be so overbearing?" Qin Wenyan's voice was filled with unhappiness. "I'm forcing you." The Barbarian Emperor stepped out once more as a heavy rumbling sound rang out. The room Qin Wenyan was staying in directly collapsed. The tables and chairs were all shattered, and even the earth was trembling. A strange rhythm reverberated through the space. Qin Wenyan's body was trembling along with this rhythm. A lazy voice drifted over, causing the Barbarian Emperor to start. After that, his gaze turned gentle as the rhythm vanished. He turned his head and stared in a certain direction. Over there, the Palace Lord of the Thousand Feathers Palace was in. "Come over to my place. Qin Wenyan, you come over as well." That lazy voice rang out once more. The Barbarian Emperor coldly glanced at Qin Wenyan before stepping out. Qin Wenyan followed behind him, and a moment later, the two of them arrived at the palace Yi Qinyu was staying in. "Palace Mistress." The Barbarian Emperor and Qin Wenyan walked over. Yi Qinyu changed her clothes again, exuding a sense of elegance and elegance. The two different styles seemed to have fused perfectly on her. The Barbarian Emperor stared at her as a bright light flashed in his eyes. "Hey man, Qin Wenyan has already joined us. You are just an immortal emperor, what's the point of provoking him? Do you even have me in your eyes?" Yi Qinyu calmly spoke. The Barbarian Emperor bowed. "Palace Mistress, I only want to see how strong his combat prowess is. I want to know if he is worthy enough for Palace Mistress to value him so highly. I naturally know what I'm doing. When have I ever needed you to make decisions for me?" Yi Qinyu's voice turned colder. This was the first time Qin Wenyan saw this sexy woman having such a stern side to her. The Barbarian Emperor lowered his head. "A man knows his mistake. It's just that he hasn't done anything and is already receiving such treatment. I can't accept this in my heart." Do you think I don't know what you are thinking?" Yi Qinyu coldly snorted. "Since you destroyed Qin Wenyan's residence, From now onwards, Qin went in, you can stay in my palace. There are many rooms here, you can choose whichever you want. Palace mistress, you mustn't. The barbarian emperor inclined his head, his expression changing as he stared at Yi Qianyu. Qin Wenyin was also stunned. Although this woman was a supreme beauty, he truly didn't dare to stay here. He might be tortured miserably by this demoness. But, are you starting to doubt my decision? Yi Qianyu's voice turned even colder. A man doesn't dare to. It's just that palace mistress. The barbarian emperor still wanted to speak, but Yi Qianyu waved her hand, stopping him from continuing. She calmly spoke, "It's decided then. A man, I know what you are thinking about, but you better restrain your thoughts and focus on cultivation. Don't let down father's expectations." The barbarian emperor's heart trembled. He stared at Yi Qianyu only to see Yi Qianyu's gaze turning gentler, filled with anticipation. His heart trembled as he nodded, "Sister Qianyu, a man will definitely not let down master's expectations. Go on. Cultivation is number one." Yi Qianyu waved her hand. The barbarian emperor bade farewell, and before he left, he coldly glanced at Qin Wenyin. Qin Wenyin sweated. At this moment, he finally understood the relationship between the two of them. Yi Qianyu's father was actually the master of the barbarian emperor. No wonder the barbarian emperor was so close to Yi Qianyu. An immortal emperor was willing to be her sedan bearer and even referred to himself as a man in front of her. So it turned out that there was a connection between them. Seems like they were family. Upon thinking of this, Qin Wenyin felt even more depressed. How could he not see that the barbarian emperor was clearly in love with Yi Qianyu? Wasn't Yi Qianyu tricking him by letting him stay here? When he thought of the gaze of the barbarian emperor before he left, Qin Wenyin felt incomparably depressed. Seeing the frown on Qin Wenyan's face, Yi Qianyu smiled. "Why? Are you unhappy that I let you choose a room to stay here?" "I don't dare to. It's just that this subordinate is worried that Palace Lord's reputation would be affected. Hence." Qin Wenyan trembled as he spoke. "You are so considerate of me. Since this is the case, why don't you stay with me? In that case, no one would gossip about us." Yi Qianyu giggled. Qin Wenyin stared at the supreme beauty before him as he was dumbfounded. His body involuntarily shivered. Upon seeing the embarrassed look on Qin Wenyan's face, Yi Qianyu giggled. That trembling body of hers was truly mesmerizing. "Earlier, you have also heard Ain Man's words. You have no merits and would surely be criticized by others in the future. I'm currently planning for the next operation. At that time, why don't you come with me and use your original appearance to take revenge on the Jialan monarch? How about it?" Yi Qianyu spoke. Qin Wenyan's expression turned black. He shook his head unceasingly. "Palace Lord, please spare me. I'm just a captive. Palace Lord can order me to do anything. Forget about being a bandit. I can help Palace Lord to manage some matters of the Thousand Feathers Palace. Palace Lord can make any arrangements for me." Bandit, he had to use his original appearance to be a bandit. How would he still be able to survive in the immortal realms in the future? He would definitely have to risk his life. There will naturally be people who will manage the matters of the Thousand Feathers Palace. You need to temper yourself. Being a bandit is very suitable. Yi Qianyu persuaded. Qin Wenyin still shook his head, refusing to listen no matter what. "You really don't want to go?" Yi Qianyu's voice turned colder. "Palace Lord, please forgive me." Qin Wenyin lowered his head. "All right, I won't force you." Yi Qianyu sighed, her voice was filled with disappointment. Her gentle and charming eyes stared deeply at Qin Wenyin, causing Qin Wenyin to almost agree. This woman was too terrifying. A single glance from her could cause people to lose their minds and be willing to go through water and tread on fire for her. What a femme fatale. Qin Wenyin silently mused. Yi Qianyu turned and left. Her back view exuded a sense of loneliness. She didn't seem like the charming immortal emperor beauty from before at all. Qin Wenyin found a place to stay, as far away from Yi Qianyu's palace as possible. Yi Qianyu didn't look for him again to force him to become a bandit. One day, another person came to the palace. It was said that this person was an extremely powerful formation grandmaster. After being busy for a period of time, Yi Qianyu found Qin Wendian and asked him to follow her to her cultivation location. After passing through the Great Hall, Qin Wendian came to Yi Qianyu's cultivation location. This place had always been forbidden for outsiders to enter. Heavenly City was built on a mountain range. The back mountain where Yi Qianyu was cultivating at was extremely high, yet it was beautifully constructed and was covered in formations. Qin Wenyan ascended the stairs and came to a cultivation platform. Qin Wentian's eyes abruptly froze there as he stared unblinkingly at the platform before him. "How is it?" Yi Qianyu stood beside Qin Wenyan as she spoke in a gentle voice. This cultivation platform shone with the resplendent light. Astral light cascaded down unceasingly from the sky, seemingly boundless and boundless, resembling emperor light. "Palace mistress." Qin Wentian's expression turned heavy. This cultivation platform had 7 attributes and was completely compatible with the 7 astral souls he cultivated. Right now, he was no longer a newcomer to the supreme ancient immortal realms. He knew very well how valuable such a cultivation platform was. It was a supremely powerful formation, and this was especially so for the cultivation platform before his eyes. It was definitely constructed from emperor stones of the 7 attributes. Let alone an immortal king like him, even immortal emperors wouldn't be able to enjoy such a cultivation platform. However, Yi Qianyu actually constructed one for him. Chapter 1548. Qin Wendian glanced at Yi Qianyu, who was beside him. "Palace mistress, I don't understand." He truly didn't understand. Even immortal emperors couldn't enjoy such treatment. Why would Yi Qianyu give him such preferential treatment? Was it because she had seen his 7 astral souls before? "In the future, you can freely enter and exit my palace. This cultivation platform belongs to you. You can go and experience it." Yi Qianyu smiled. "Junior doesn't deserve it." Qin Wendian replied. "The cultivation platform has already been completed and the price has already been paid. Whether you use it or not, that's your business. Don't worry, I won't use this to force you to become a bandit with me. If you aren't willing, there's no need for you to go." Yi Qianyu calmly spoke. After that, she walked forward, ascending the stairs step by step towards a high vantage point. From there, she would be able to see the scenery of Heavenly City from there. Is her loneliness real? Qin Wendian could actually sense the loneliness of Yi Qianyu's back. He sighed and turned his gaze to the cultivation platform before him. Drawing in a deep breath, he stepped on it and started to cultivate. 7-colored light revolved around him as boundless law energy descended from the sky. The dense law energy gushed into his body as he released his astral souls, frenziedly absorbing the law energy. At the same time, he was comprehending the law energy. This entire area was enveloped by a translucent formation. From here, one could see the scenery of Heavenly City, but from the outside, one wouldn't be able to see what was going on inside. It was impossible for immortal senses to seep in. Cultivating on the cultivation platform, only then did Qin Wenyan truly understand how terrifying the cultivation resources of the supreme ancient immortal realms were. This was merely the tip of the iceberg. For those Empyrean powers at the world overlord level, what kind of terrifying cultivation resources would their descendants have? What kind of demon-level characters would they be able to create? Seems like even though he has heaven-defying astral souls now, he mustn't underestimate the heroes of the world. This world was far more fascinating compared to the Azure Mystic Immortal realms. With such cultivation conditions, Qin Wendian naturally could focus on his cultivation. He was preparing to raise his cultivation base to the peak stage of the Immortal King realm, returning to his peak state. If that was the case, he would have more assurance when he roamed the supreme ancient immortal realms. Sometimes, Yi Qianyu would come here to cultivate. Sometimes she would sit on the high ground and watch the sun rise and set. Sometimes she would drink wine alone, and there were even some times where she would bathe. Luckily, Qin Wenyan was focused on his cultivation and had no time to care about other things. If not, he would surely be distracted. After a period of time, the barbarian emperor couldn't bear it any longer and came to Yi Qianyu's palace to meet with her. Palace Lord, how can you do this? You actually built the cultivation platform in your own resting area. The barbarian emperor stared at the magnificent figure before him as his eyes flashed with reluctance. Why not? Yi Qinyu calmly asked. Do you like to interfere in my matters so much now? During these few days, has he been inside? The barbarian emperor pointed to the bedroom as he roared in anger. Impudent. Yi Qinyu's expression turned cold. Qianyu, even if I have to be impudent, I have to be impudent for once. But which part of me is inferior to him? The barbarian emperor roared. A little lion appeared beside him, quietly staring at the barbarian emperor and Yi Qinyu as it shook its head. As the mount of the Knight Empyrean, the evil emperor naturally knew that this disciple of the Knight Empyrean was fond of his little miss. It was just that he truly wasn't worthy of his little miss. Yi Qinyu's cold eyes stared at the barbarian emperor, causing his anger to gradually calm down. He lowered his head again, not daring to look at her sharp eyes. Then just leave. You will understand me in the future. Yi Qinyu sighed. The barbarian emperor turned and left with reluctance. After seeing the barbarian emperor leaving, Yi Qinyu turned and walked towards the back of the palace. When she arrived before Qin Wenyan, she halted and stared at his resplendent figure as a charming smile appeared on her face. This fellow was truly interesting. After that, she turned and walked towards the tall platform. Qin Wenyan opened his eyes and glanced over. For some reason, he felt that Yi Qinyu's back view was extremely lonely. But after that, he closed his eyes again and continued his cultivation. Time flowed by unknowingly. In the blink of an eye, another 2 years passed. Qin Wenyan opened his eyes as a resplendent beam of light shot out. Resplendent law light radiated from him, frenziedly entering his body. His astral souls vanished as he slowly stood up and walked out of the cultivation platform. He glanced in the direction of the tall platform. As expected, Yi Qinyu was there. She was quietly lying down on a cushion, staring at Heavenly City in a daze. He didn't know why, but every time Qin Wenyan opened his eyes, he could feel her loneliness. You've ended your seclusion? Yi Qinyu had a charming smile on her face. Her aura abruptly changed, like she was a completely different person. The lonely aura she exuded earlier instantly vanished. The her now was extremely charming and alluring to the extreme. Many thanks, Palace Mistress. Qin Wenyan spoke. Yi Qinyu smiled. Qin Wenyan sat down opposite of her. After interacting with her for a period of time, he discovered that this woman wasn't as terrifying as he imagined. This was especially so for him. She treated him extremely well, so well that Qin Wenyan didn't know what to do. Your cultivation speed is truly fast. You are at the peak stage of the immortal king realm. You shouldn't feel any pressure when dealing with initial stage immortal emperors, right? Yi Qinyu's beautiful eyes stared unblinkingly at Qin Wenyan. This cultivation speed was truly terrifying. In addition, Qin Wenyan had already broken through a long time ago. It was just that he had yet to exit his seclusion. There shouldn't be any problems. Qin Wenyan nodded lightly. It's just that I don't understand. Why does Palace Mistress treat me like this? Qin Wenyan asked. If you don't understand, don't bother trying to understand. Yi Qinyu casually spoke. However, Qin Wenyan truly doesn't know how to repay Palace Mistress's kindness. Qin Wenyan sighed. Why don't you repay me with your body? Yi Qinyu's charming eyes were like silk, capable of hooking the souls of men away. Qin Wenyan stared at this alluring woman as he bitterly smiled. Palace Mistress, if you continue to tempt me like this, I really won't be able to control myself. Is that so? In that case, you don't have to control yourself. Yi Qinyu giggled. This mistress is still a virgin. Qin Wenyan had a face filled with black lines. He couldn't help but to think of the devilish female he met back in the myriad Devil Islands. That devilish female was also very powerful, causing him to have no way to defend against her. But this woman before his eyes was far superior compared to that devilish female. Regardless of looks, demeanor, sexiness, charm or strength, all of them were above the devilish female. I don't dare to. Qin Wenyan bitterly smiled. Don't dare? In that case, you are saying that you don't dare to? Yi Qinyu still had no intentions of sparing Qin Wenyin. Qin Wenyin wanted to flee. Is it because of your senior sister? Yi Qinyu suddenly asked. Qin Wenyin shook his head, turning his gaze downwards. With a single glance, a majestic city could be seen. In his mind, he couldn't help but to think of Qing'er and Qingqing. Qing'er with a head full of silver hair and Qingqing with a pair of lifeless eyes. They were still waiting for him in the azure mystic immortal realms. Despite the longing in his heart, Qin Wentian's heart was as calm as still water when facing the beauty before him. Upon sensing the change in Qin Wenyan, Yi Qianyu's beautiful eyes flashed with a strange light. Seems like there was a story in his heart as well. How about 2 cups? Yi Qianyu asked. Sure. Qin Wendian nodded. Yi Qianyu waved her hand as the fragrance of wine permeated the air. Yi Qianyu took out a flask of wine and 2 cups. After that, she lifted the flask and poured the wine into the 2 cups. She then spoke in a gentle voice, "This is the first time I'm pouring wine for a man." Many thanks, Palace Mistress. Qin Wentian received the wine cups. The 2 of them toasted each other and drained the wine in a single gulp. The wine was very strong, capable of burning one's body and heart. Qin Wentian didn't expect Yi Qianyu to actually drink such strong wine. My surname is Yi. Yi Qianyu, very few people know of my surname. After a few cups of wine, Yi Qianyu blushed, appearing even more charming. She stared at Qin Wenyan. Do you know of the Knight Empyrean? I don't. Qin Wendian shook his head. You aren't someone from the region governed by the Jialan monarch. Yi Qianyu seemed to have seen through Qin Wenyan. She smiled. The Knight Empyrean is a legendary great thief, an expert who once dominated the Li-Fire Palace. He swept through the various mines and acted with no fear. Even the Li-Fire Empyrean couldn't do anything to him. After that, the lifelong Realm Lord was alerted and the 2 palace lords joined forces to set up a heavenly net, capturing the Knight Empyrean and all the people around him, including his wife and children. Qin Wentian's heart trembled. He seemed to have guessed something. I'm Yi Qianyu, the only daughter of the Knight Empyrean. As expected, Yi Qianyu's words verified Qin Wentian's guess. His heart trembled. Yi Qianyu told him all this. As long as he revealed this to her, Yi Qianyu would definitely die without a burial ground. Given how vast the immortal realms are, those transcendent powers govern the world, dividing up the resources. All the resources belong to them. For those who don't follow orders, they are all unaffiliated cultivators, unable to enjoy the resources. For those who plunder resources, they are all bandits. How tyrannical are they? Everyone in the world can only enjoy the resources if they join their system. Yi Qianyu coldly spoke. Qin Wenyan poured wine for her and she drained it in 1 cup after another. Naturally, the martial world has always been like this. The strong are tyrannical and supreme. Their words are orders. If one day you can ascend to the peak, you will also be the same, controlling the world. At that time, those who follow will naturally prosper. Yi Qianyu seemed to be mocking herself. She then laughed. Back then, my father discovered a mine and hired people to excavate it. After that, a palace lord directly took it for himself and offered it to the realm lord. Isn't this plundering? Isn't this what bandits do? Qin Wendian sighed in his heart. Indeed, there was no difference. It was all plundering. It's just that if the other party was strong, it was justifiable. If the other party was weak, they were bandits. After that, after my father grew stronger, he became a bandit. And now, I've inherited what my father did. Yi Qianyu spoke as she laid on the ground again. That alluring figure of hers simply laid there. Even she herself didn't know how alluring she was. Do you think that I'm seducing you because I want you to stay by my side so that you can help me take revenge when you grow stronger in the future? Yi Qianyu suddenly stared at Qin Wenyan. After drinking, her eyes were like silk, incomparably charming. I don't dare to. Qin Wendian continued. Given Palace Lord's beauty, what kind of people wouldn't you be able to seduce? Most probably, even the World Palace Lords of the 9 World Palaces wouldn't be able to resist your charm. Although I feel that my talent isn't bad, I don't dare to feel that my current self is qualified to be mentioned in the same breath as those world palace lords. Yi Qinyu smiled at Qin Wenyan. You are wrong. I'm seducing you. If you want to do something to me, maybe I really won't resist. Qin Wenyan heard that gentle voice and glanced at the slender figure lying on the ground. He felt as though he was about to collapse. This demoness was too ruthless. Chapter 1549. Qin Wenyan stared at that incomparably alluring figure and spoke, Palace mistress, I'm willing to follow you and become a bandit. It's just that I won't reveal my true appearance. Yi Qinyu started. She smiled at Qin Wenyan, such a good opportunity yet you actually gave it up. Don't regret it. As for the matter of being a bandit, I won't force you to participate or not. Just do as you wish, don't force yourself because of your beauty. Qin Wenyan speechlessly glanced at her. The Jialan monarch has some grudges with me and I might as well use this opportunity to take revenge. This is my own intention. Palace mistress, farewell. After speaking, Qin Wenyan stood up and left. Staring at Qin Wenyan's departing back, Yi Qianyu's beautiful eyes flashed with a bright light. After that, she turned her gaze back to the city. Gentle footsteps rang out. Yi Qianyu didn't turn her head back. In this place, other than Qin Wenyan, only the evil emperor could enter. Miss, why must you do this? The evil emperor spoke in a light voice. Yi Qianyu turned her head and glanced at the little lion. She smiled. Don't you feel that he is very interesting? I truly have no intentions of letting him become a bandit and wanted him to focus on his cultivation. However, he actually took the initiative to request this. Clearly, he wasn't tempted by me. He probably wants to repay the grace of that formation. Miss, your body is priceless. In the future, you will definitely have a supreme Dao companion to accompany you. Why must you make things difficult for yourself? The evil emperor shook his head. Make things difficult? Yi Qinyu laughed. She stared at the evil emperor. Little lion, aren't you underestimating him a little too much? If he was willing earlier, I might not have rejected him. As she spoke, the corners of her mouth curled up into a faintly discernible smile that was extremely alluring. The evil emperor stared at Yi Qinyu in astonishment. Oh, little lion, don't you feel that he is very handsome? Yi Qinyu suddenly asked. The evil emperor was completely stunned as black lines appeared on his forehead. His young miss was at the immortal emperor realm, but she was actually smitten? Little lion, there are many things that you don't understand. Yi Qinyu sighed softly. She treated Qin Wenyan very well and didn't have any ulterior motives. She didn't ask for much by helping Qin Wenyan construct a formation for him. She only wanted Qin Wenyan to remember her kindness when he grew stronger in the future. For some people, it was better to wait until they grew stronger to a certain extent before making use of them. They weren't so foolish. Sending charcoal in the snowy weather was far better than adding flowers to a brocade. I really don't understand. It's fine as long as you're happy, the little lion said softly. It was quite boring in the past. But now that he is here, I can tease him frequently. How interesting. Yi Qinyu smiled. But very swiftly, Yi Qinyu furrowed her brows. After that, her silhouette flashed as she flew outside. Outside, in Qin Wenyan's residence, a figure appeared. A violent aura flowed around his body, and his cold eyes stared at Qin Wenyan. His gaze was as sharp as a blade. Other than the barbarian emperor, who else could it be? A man. The evil emperor was also somewhat unhappy. The barbarian emperor kept coming here to cause trouble, and it was truly a little overboard. No matter how his little miss treated Qin Wenyan, that was her private matter. Senior evil emperor, I must fight him today no matter what. The barbarian emperor was infuriated. Qin Wenyan actually stayed in Yi Qianyu's residence for over 2 years. He had no idea what happened during this period of time. During these days, he had been in a daze and didn't even have the mood to cultivate. Finally, when Qin Wenyan came out, he couldn't swallow this anger and directly came here. Senior's cultivation base is at the immortal emperor realm. Qin Wenyan knows that he's inferior. Qin Wenyan continued to evade the battle. Outside, the three peak-stage immortal kings were secretly paying attention to the situation here. This time around, the barbarian emperor seemed to be angered. It wasn't a secret that the barbarian emperor was secretly in love with the palace mistress. Everyone knew that. In truth, who didn't have a crush on the palace mistress? In the entire heavenly city, it was unknown how many people drooled over the palace mistress's beauty. But what sort of character was the palace mistress? Not only was she extremely powerful, she controlled the treasure vault of the Thousand Feathers Palace and was also the #1 beauty in Heavenly City. There was no one in the entire Heavenly City who could catch her eye. The relationship between the barbarian emperor and the palace mistress was so good, but the palace mistress had never allowed him to enter her residence. But now, an immortal king captive actually managed to gain the favor of the palace mistress. One could even say that the palace mistress doted on him. They even suspected that the palace mistress was mesmerized by Qin Wentian's handsomeness. No wonder the barbarian emperor was so angry. Seems like this fellow was in for it. What's the use of such a cowardly person? If you don't want to fight, scram out. The barbarian emperor roared. Qin Wentian. At this moment, Yi Qinyu called out. Qin Wentian glanced at her. Fight him. Yi Qinyu's expression turned cold. An immortal emperor forcing an immortal king to fight, and you are still so arrogant? Seems like you are getting more and more ignorant of the immensity of the heavens and earth. Qinyu. The barbarian emperor stared at Yi Qinyu. Qin Wentian, did you hear my words? Yi Qinyu spoke again. Qin Wentian nodded. Okay, let's go. The barbarian emperor turned. No need, let's just fight here. Yi Qinyu stepped out. Terrifying law energy transformed into a spatial barrier, trapping the two of them within. Man, just use your strongest attack. Qin Wentian, there's no need to give him face. Yi Qinyu seemed to have steeled her heart, wanting to deal a blow to the barbarian emperor. The barbarian emperor was enraged when he heard Yi Qinyu's words. Bright light flashed as emperor light cascaded down from the sky. He was like a supreme emperor of his generation. A terrifying might gushed forth from him, wanting to crush the heavens. A violent palm imprint blotted out the sky, enveloping all directions. The barbarian emperor was truly enraged. Qin Wentian sighed in his heart. To the Qinyu palace, he was still considered an outsider. Even if Yi Qinyu treated him well, he still chose to keep a low profile and endure. However, the barbarian emperor kept pressuring him. Now that Yi Qinyu wanted him to act, he could only fight. Radiance enveloped him. Qin Wentian was actually bathed in holy light energy. His law energy transformed into a terrifying tempest that shot up into the sky. Kill! The barbarian emperor roared, causing the sky to change color. The five-fingered palm imprint brought with it a towering might as it blasted towards Qin Wentian. Go! Qin Wentian spoke. At this instant, a resplendent light suddenly radiated from his body. This light was so bright that it could blind the eyes of others. Even Yi Qinyu, who was in the air, had to shield her eyes. This light was like a beam of light that could illuminate the entire world, capable of annihilating everything. The barbarian emperor only felt a piercing pain in his eyes, but he was still an immortal emperor after all. Boundless astral light rained down on him, forming a barrier in front of him, transforming into a fearsome defensive barrier. However, the power of the light continued to shoot over. Everywhere it passed by, everything in its path was transformed into light. His defensive barrier was slowly being destroyed bit by bit. Arg! A scream of agony rang out. The beam of light penetrated into his body. The terrifying radiance was like a myriad of destructive swords. Qin Wentian moved, directly appearing before the barbarian emperor as he blasted out a palm imprint. With a thunderous boom, the barbarian emperor was flung through the air. He coughed out a mouthful of blood as he slammed into Yi Qinyu's defensive barrier. After that, he landed on the ground with a pale countenance. The barbarian emperor's body stiffened as he stood up. His gaze was somewhat sluggish as he stared at Qin Wentian in a daze. His countenance alternated between green and white. His body was still trembling, but this wasn't because of his injuries. Pooh! He coughed out another mouthful of blood. In an instant, the barbarian emperor's entire person seemed incomparably dispirited, as though he had lost his soul. The three peak-stage immortal kings outside all widened their eyes when they saw this scene. They exchanged mutual glances, their gazes filled with shock. The barbarian emperor, who was at the immortal emperor realm, was actually defeated. Not only was he defeated in an extremely miserable manner. He was insta-defeated and had no way to retaliate at all. A dignified immortal emperor was actually defeated in such a domineering manner under the astral resonance radiance. Was this irony? Of course it was. Before this, Qin Wenyin had been avoiding the battle, admitting that he was inferior to the barbarian emperor. But what was the truth? "Hey man, do you understand now?" Yi Qinyu dissipated her energy as she sighed lightly. The barbarian emperor inclined his head and stared at Yi Qinyu as a bitter smile appeared on his face. His smile was even uglier than crying, "No wonder you don't like me. So this is the case. Hey man, you have followed me for the longest time and should understand me more than the others. You should understand what my goal is, and I also hope that you can cultivate well, reaching the realm my father was at in the past. This is my hope for you and not because of emotions." Yi Qinyu's voice was no longer as cold as before. "I understand. I will cultivate well." The barbarian emperor nodded. "Go and prepare for the next operation. This time, Qin Wenyin will participate as well." Yi Qinyu spoke. The barbarian emperor nodded and cast a deep glance at Qin Wenyin before he departed. Several months later, Yi Qinyu, Qin Wenyin and the others silently left the Thousand Palace. In a mountain range, there were clouds churning on the peak of the mountain as a terrifying lion king hovered in the air. Yi Qinyu, Qin Wenyin and the others were all clad in armor. In addition, more and more experts flew over, directly stepping onto the back of the Lion King. There was no communication at all. It was like they had long reached a tacit understanding. Before this, everything had already been communicated through messaging crystals. Everyone only needed to carry out the orders given. Finally, everyone had arrived. Yi Qinyu glanced at everyone as she spoke in a low voice. The Jialan monarch would definitely be prepared for this. This time around, things won't be as easy as before. The mining days of the Jialan monarch's territory are all staggered. Hence, they would definitely be on high alert and have experts guarding the area. In fact, even the Jialan monarch might appear at any time. Yi Qinyu glanced at everyone as she spoke in a low voice. Yi Qinyu's voice didn't contain any gentleness at all. There was only imposingness. Everyone nodded. They also understood that although 2 years have passed, the Jialan monarch wouldn't let his guard down. Maybe he might even be waiting for them to appear. Everyone understood this point. The Jialan monarch. This was also the reason why it was so hard for bandits to survive. Sometimes, after doing something big, they had to wash their hands of the bandits. If not, they would be in danger the second time. Qin Wenyan's expression turned heavy. He didn't expect that the first major thing he would do after coming to the supreme ancient immortal realms was actually to plunder. Truly, the affairs of the world are unpredictable. Chapter 1550. The Violet Cloud Mine was one of the 3 largest mines in the region under the Jialan monarch's control. It was an extremely valuable main mine and could produce immortal mountains of various attributes. Emperor-ranked stones would often appear here, and in fact, there were even existences that surpassed emperor-ranked stones. Hence, to the Jialan monarch, the importance of this mine far surpassed the other mine that was plundered earlier. Hence, the experts guarding this place would all have a higher cultivation base. Right now, there were already 2 mid-stage immortal emperors guarding this place, personally collecting the mine. This formation was simply terrifying. There were 6 teleportation arrays here, all of them connected to the Jialan monarch's emperor palace. Also, this mine wasn't too far away from a major city. Even if the teleportation array was destroyed, the Jialan monarch could still teleport to the major city nearby and use the shortest amount of time to rush here. Hence, normally, no bandits would dare to rob the Violet Cloud Mine. Even during normal times, Ordinary bandits wouldn't dare to take such a huge risk. The defenses of this mine were simply too strong. In addition, 2 years ago, the Jialan monarch had a bandit incident. From this, one could very well imagine how tight the defenses were now. At a place extremely far away from the Violet Cloud mine, the clouds in the sky churned. The evil emperor transformed into a gigantic lion and continued advancing forward. On the back of the lion, experts were as common as the clouds. Qin Wenyan could faintly sense that this time around, the number of experts was even more terrifying compared to before. There were many more immortal emperors among them. Qin Wenyan. Only to see at this moment, Yi Qianyu's voice suddenly rang out in Qin Wenyan's mind. This caused his eyes to flash as he glanced at Yi Qianyu. Although the Jialan monarch is a mid-stage immortal emperor, he is one of the 9 monarchs of the Li-Fire Palace. His strength alone is extremely shocking. After the battle starts, you have to avoid him no matter what. Your goal is to wipe out the peak-stage immortal kings of the other party before luring initial-stage immortal emperors to kill you. Yi Qianyu spoke. Qin Wenyan's expression turned cold. Yi Qianyu actually intentionally told him to avoid the Jialan monarch. Seems like that fellow's strength must be extraordinary and might be able to kill him easily. Now that he has been in the supreme ancient immortal realms for a period of time, as he gained more understanding of this place, he naturally wouldn't be too arrogant. There would definitely be many extraordinary characters in the vast supreme ancient immortal realms. The Palace Lord seems to know that the Jialan monarch would definitely appear. In that case, for this operation, are we going to clash head-on? Qin Wenyan transmitted his voice over. Just wait and watch the show. Don't worry, I will only kill the subordinates of the Jialan monarch. As long as those miners don't act against us, no one will act against them. Yi Qianyu smiled as she transmitted her voice over. Qin Wenyan didn't say anything more. Yi Qianyu was the daughter of the Night Empyrean and her enemies were 2 of the 9 world palaces. The Li-Fire Palace and the 9 monarchs under the Li-Fire Palace had all participated in the massacre of her family. There was nothing wrong with her seeking revenge. Moreover, she was a bandit, so she was naturally irreconcilable with the other party. The demonic Lion Emperor continued moving forward, and finally arrived in the airspace above the Violet Cloud mine. Qin Wenyan cast his gaze downwards, only to see numerous sharp gazes directed at him from the Violet Cloud mine. Kill. Yi Qianyu coldly spoke. After that, the armored experts directly descended from the air. They actually didn't break the teleportation array like before but chose to launch a frontal assault instead. Qin Wenyan's heart trembled. Yi Qianyu's operation this time around was clearly to challenge the Jialan monarch. In the air, boundless light cascaded downwards. The gigantic demonic Lion Emperor roared and rushed out, ignoring everything as he rushed towards the 2 mid-stage immortal emperors. Yi Qianyu was clad in armor. She had a long black spear in her hands. This black spear shone with a dark light and in the air, astral light cascaded downwards. Yi Qianyu stabbed out with her spear and in an instant, the entire area below turned pitch black. Numerous figures soared up into the air, rushing out of the darkness. In that pitch-black domain, their immortal senses were completely covered in darkness, they couldn't see anything. The jade-green eyes of the evil emperor directly shot into the mind of a mid-stage immortal emperor. It was like a lion king walking towards the soul of that mid-stage immortal emperor, guarding there. The evil emperor opened his bloody maw and swallowed downwards. That mid-stage immortal emperor's countenance drastically changed as he hurriedly retreated. The eyes of the evil emperor gleamed with green light. His speed increased as he directly swallowed that mid-stage immortal emperor, causing everyone to be dumbfounded. A mid-stage immortal emperor was actually swallowed by the evil emperor in the blink of an eye. Qin Wenyan's heart trembled. In the supreme ancient immortal realms, the death of immortal emperors was a very ordinary matter. It basically wouldn't cause too great of a commotion. A group battle instantly erupted. Qin Wenyan rushed out, his fingers like swords. With every strike, an immortal king would definitely die. In a short period of time, countless experts died. However, at this moment, The teleportation array connecting the mind to the outside world lit up as a group of experts walked out. What made Qin Wendian shocked was that the person in the lead was actually the Jialan monarch. The Jialan monarch was no longer in the emperor palace. He was hiding in the mine instead. Clearly, he hadn't forgotten the time when he plundered the mine and had been waiting for an opportunity. Right now, this group of bandits finally appeared again. The teleportation array connecting the mine to the mine also lit up as more and more experts walked out. Qin Wenyan saw a familiar figure, cold as ice and peerlessly beautiful. It was none other than Princess Kitamura. She has also arrived. Evil Emperor. The Jialan monarch's expression turned ashen when he saw the evil emperor killing another mid-stage immortal emperor under him. His killing intent was extremely terrifying. The two mid-stage immortal emperors guarding this place were instantly killed by the evil emperor. The evil emperor was clearly here to start a war. He showed no mercy, killing two powerful immortal emperors first. These two mid-stage immortal emperors, in addition to the two initial-stage immortal emperors he killed earlier, the Jialan monarch had already lost 4 immortal emperors in just a short span of 3 years. This was sufficient to cause him to feel heartache. In the future, he would need to recruit more subordinates from outside, promising them conditions and nurture them into his trusted subordinates. The evil emperor roared and directly rushed towards the Jialan monarch. His jade-green eyes shot into the Jialan monarch's sea of consciousness. However, he only saw the Jialan monarch's eyes becoming extremely terrifying, extremely bizarre, able to cause people to fall into a trance. At the same time, runic lines appeared on his body as a terrifying aura gushed forth, devouring the law energy in the surroundings. At the same time, he also frenziedly absorbed the emperor light in the air. The entire person of the Jialan monarch became incomparably resplendent. Under the astral light, he was like a pillar of light that shot up to the heavens. On the pillar of light, terrifying runes could be seen, causing thunder and lightning to rumble. The runes on the Jialan monarch's body transformed into numerous illusory dragons that coiled around the pillar of light, roaring as they soared into the air. Kill! The Jialan monarch coldly roared. The dragons and snakes danced in the air, transforming into a terrifying gigantic beast that blasted towards the evil emperor. A heaven-shaking collision rang out as a violent shockwave swept across the area. The experts in the surroundings were all forced back, fleeing far away from this battlefield. In the air, the light was incomparably resplendent as a destructive might bore down. A terrifying beam of light shot down from the pillar of light, and under the shocked gazes of everyone, a supremely terrifying gigantic beast appeared in the air above the Jialan monarch. It resembled a dragon yet wasn't a dragon, resembled a snake yet wasn't a snake. It had sharp horns, a malevolent countenance, a coiled body, and a pair of demonic eyes. The Jialan monarch's eyes were also extremely demonic. He stared at the gigantic Lion King and coldly spoke, "Evil Emperor, after the Night Empyrean died, you actually still dare to cause trouble here. Today, this monarch shall eliminate you." The evil emperor moved forward. His jade-green eyes were extremely demonic. Yi Qinyu also walked over, wielding a long spear of darkness as her expression was extremely cold. "Where is Qin Wenyan?" Princess Kitamura coldly glanced over as she coldly spoke, her words causing Qin Wenyan, who was at the side, to be stunned. Yi Qinyu glanced at Princess Kitamura as a bright light flashed in her eyes. Was this the beautiful senior sister of Qin Wenyan? She was truly very beautiful. At this moment, a figure madly rushed towards Princess Kitamura, causing Qin Wenyan to start. The person rushing towards Princess Kitamura was none other than the barbarian emperor, who was clad in armor. Princess Kitamura's body shone with emperor light as a cold intent engulfed the area. In an instant, the space around the barbarian emperor froze, turning into ice, causing the barbarian emperor's body to be sealed in ice. With a roar, Princess Kitamura stepped out, radiating a powerful killing intent. With a wave of her hand, a deathly cold aura gushed forth. Given Yo Wang's strength, it shouldn't be a problem for her to deal with the barbarian emperor. Qin Wendian silently mused. Princess Kitamura was an extremely demon-level genius in the Azure Mystic Immortal realms. She was the youngest immortal emperor in the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom and had ascended to the peak of the Demon God Mountain before. She also broke through to the Immortal Emperor realm in the Tiandao Sacred Academy, and there was no doubt about her talent. It was just that because of her beautiful countenance, her talent in cultivation was easily overlooked by others. Did you forget to fight just because you saw your lover? Yi Qianyu's voice rang out in Qin Wentian's mind, filled with a hint of mockery. Qin Wentian was speechless. After that, he stepped out, directly moving towards a peak-stage immortal king. With a single glance, an eye technique appeared as sword chi gushed forth, directly killing that immortal king. Right now, his cultivation base had returned to the peak of the past. Those at the same level as him couldn't even withstand a single strike from him. Even if he didn't use his law domain, just a simple punch or a sword strike would be sufficient to kill his opponent. A sword domain appeared around Qin Wentian. As he stepped out, killing intent gushed forth, traversing through the air, unceasingly killing his opponents. In the blink of an eye, many immortal kings died in his hands. Bzz. A raging wind gusted as an immortal emperor rushed towards Qin Wentian. This immortal emperor was one of the two immortal emperors who appeared together with the Jialan monarch in the Wind Thunder City. Qin Wentian retreated, instantly retreating far away. However, that immortal emperor snorted coldly. How would he spare Qin Wentian? Resplendent emperor light radiated from him as a prison of earth appeared, trapping him and Qin Wentian within. This was the power of his domain. The light cascading down from the sky was still unceasingly supplying law energy to the prison. Chapter 1551. That immortal emperor used a prison to seal this space. He stared at Qin Wentian with a gaze like he was looking at a dead man. His expression was extremely cold as he spoke. With such combat prowess, why would you choose to be a bandit when there's such a luxurious path? Courting death. As the sound of his voice faded, he took a step forward. Qin Wentian only felt a formless pressure bearing down on his body, pressing down on him. Qin Wentian's expression was calm to the extreme. Law light radiated from him as boundless radiance cascaded downwards. Boundless holy light radiated from him, blinding the eyes of those who looked at him. A spatial gate appeared. Qin Wentian stepped out, and in the next instant, another spatial gate appeared before the immortal emperor. Qin Wentian's fingers slowly stabbed out from within. In just an instant, a brilliant radiance radiated forth, like a great art of light. Everywhere it passed by, everything was enveloped by the radiance, wanting to submit to destruction. That immortal emperor punched out, causing the entire space to tremble. Even the spatial gate was directly shattered. Boundless attacks bore down on Qin Wentian. However, under the radiance of light, no matter how strong the attacks were, they would all be destroyed. Also, that finger of Qin Wentian actually unleashed a boundless sword of light that was akin to a torrential river, frenziedly piercing into his opponent's body. How could the radiance be blocked? In just an instant, the immortal emperor's body turned into white light bit by bit before disintegrating into nothingness. It was as though he had never appeared in the first place. As for the prison that trapped the two of them, it naturally disappeared as well. Emichim? The eyes of those experts narrowed when they saw this scene. That immortal emperor actually vanished? Not long ago, that immortal emperor created a prison, causing this bandit to have no way to escape. He was prepared to trap and kill him. But now, the one who vanished was actually that immortal emperor? However, at this moment, everyone was in a frenzied battle. For a period of time, no one had the time to deal with Qin Wentian. And among the various battlefields, the one where the Jialan monarch and the evil emperor fought was naturally the most violent. Their battles swept through everything, enveloping boundless regions, directly soaring up into the sky. The gigantic demon summoned by the Jialan monarch was actually able to fight against the evil emperor. As for the Jialan monarch himself, he was fighting against Yi Qianyu. Just like what Yi Qianyu said before, as one of the 9 monarchs under the Li-Fire Empyrean, the Jialan monarch's status was even above many peak-stage immortal emperors. There was no need to doubt his combat prowess. If not, he wouldn't be able to sit on his current position. If the strength of the monarch in charge of a region was too weak, how would he be able to suppress the other experts? How would he be able to face the bandits? Although things he couldn't resolve would eventually be resolved by the Livefire Palace, what was the use of having such a subordinate? The Livefire Palace definitely needed the strongest experts to guard the various regions, sharing the burden of the Livefire Empyrean. Qin Wenin glanced over there before glancing at the battle between Princess Kitamura and the Barbarian Emperor. Princess Kitamura already held the absolute advantage, firmly suppressing the Barbarian Emperor. If this continued on, the Barbarian Emperor might very well be killed by Princess Kitamura if he didn't flee. Why are you not coming to help? The Barbarian Emperor coldly glanced at Qin Wenyan, his words causing Qin Wentian's eyes to stiffen involuntarily. The Qin Wenyan you were talking about, is he the captive? He is already dead, killed by him personally. The Barbarian Emperor pointed to Qin Wenyan as he spoke. Princess Kitamura's long hair fluttered madly when she heard this. The coldness from her body soared into the sky as she frenziedly rushed towards the Barbarian Emperor, injuring him and forcing him to retreat. However, she didn't continue to chase after him. Her silhouette flashed as she appeared before Qin Wenyan. Is what he said true? Qin Wenyan saw that Princess Kitamura's eyes gleamed with a blood-colored light. Her killing intent and coldness were mixed together, terrifying to the extreme. This beautiful princess of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom actually cared so much about him? That fellow, the Barbarian Emperor, seems like he still bore a grudge against him. He intentionally did this, causing him to be in a dilemma. Should he fight or should he tell Princess Kitamura? If he told Princess Kitamura, it was very easy for him to be exposed. Others might guess that he was Qin Wenyan. If that's the case, leaving aside the immortal realms as a bandit, he had already killed the Livefire Empyrean's men. Most probably, he wouldn't be able to continue living in this region and wouldn't be able to show his true face to others. Yes. Qin Wentian's silhouette flashed. As the sound of his voice faded, he turned and soared into the air. Arg! Princess Kitamura roared when she saw Qin Wenyan admitting to it. Her long hair fluttered madly in the wind as she stretched her palms out. Cracking sounds rang out unceasingly as the space around her froze. How could she continue traversing through space? The might of light radiating from Qin Wenyan swept through everything, illuminating the frozen space. Princess Kitamura madly chased after him. Upon seeing this scene, Qin Wenyan felt some warmth in his heart. He didn't expect Princess Kitamura to be so concerned about him. Upon hearing the news of his death, she actually acted in such a crazy manner. He continued advancing forward while Princess Kitamura pursued relentlessly. There were several times when she almost struck him, but all of her attacks were neutralized by his powerful attacks. The two of them soared through the air and soon arrived at an extremely faraway place. Qin Wenyan turned his head and glanced at Princess Kitamura, who was still madly chasing after him. He transmitted his voice, "Yuang, it's me." Princess Kitamura abruptly halted. She stopped just like that as she stared dumbfoundedly at Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan turned and faced Princess Kitamura as he spoke, "Beauty, why have you been following me? Could it be that you have fallen for this seat?" "Who?" Princess Kitamura instantly knew that Qin Wenyan was doing this intentionally when she heard his words. But when she saw that he was intentionally teasing her, in addition to the fact that he lied to her earlier, although the blood in her eyes dissipated, she still coldly stared at Qin Wenyan. She directly grabbed out with her hands, causing ice to envelop everything, directly freezing Qin Wenyan, who was caught off guard. Qin Wenyan was instantly stunned. Princess Kitamura was too ruthless. Wasn't this for real? A bright light flashed. Qin Wentian's law energy broke apart the ice. When he saw the cold look in Princess Kitamura's eyes, he could only smile bitterly in his heart as he transmitted his voice. "Yuang, are you doing well in the Emperor Palace of the Jialan Monarch? Did he bully you? Do you want me to help you kill a few more immortal emperors to help you vent your anger?" Princess Kitamura couldn't be bothered with him and continued her attacks. Qin Wenyan could only helplessly defend, but Qin Wenyan was only putting on an act. Princess Kitamura was actually for real, almost hitting Qin Wenyan several times. Emichim? At this moment, Qin Wenyan frowned. He only saw the barbarian emperor rushing over here as he coldly spoke, "Let me help you kill her." As he spoke, a gigantic palm imprint blotted out the sky as it blasted towards Princess Kitamura. Qin Wenyan's eyes flashed with coldness. Did this barbarian emperor want to kill Princess Kitamura, or was he trying to force him to admit his identity? Once he admitted that he was Qin Wenyan, not only would he be hunted down, Princess Kitamura's status in the Jialan monarch's faction would also be extremely awkward. In fact, she might even be targeted. There's no problem for you to restrain her. I'll go kill the others. Qin Wenyan's silhouette flashed, directly abandoning Princess Kitamura. A spatial gate flashed as he soared through the air, his actions causing the barbarian emperor's expression to turn extremely cold. Retreat. At this moment, a voice rang out in the air. It was Yi Qianyu's voice. She and the evil emperor coldly stared at the Jialan monarch as they retreated. The experts from the various factions all retreated towards her. The Jialan monarch waved his hand, stopping everyone from continuing the battle. At this moment, he suddenly had a bad premonition. Earlier when they were fighting, the teleportation array leading to the Emperor Palace was destroyed by a few immortal kings. Both sides were fighting, but why did the other party destroy the teleportation array? There was only one goal in doing so, and that was to prevent him from using the teleportation array to return to the Emperor Palace. He naturally didn't think that these bandits would be so daring to attack his Emperor Palace. However, what if these bandits had other accomplices? The Jialan monarch had been in a high position for many years and was naturally extremely sensitive to such things. When the teleportation array was destroyed, he already thought of many things and felt a faint sense of worry in his heart. The people on Yi Qianyu's side, including Qin Wenyan, all retreated onto the back of the evil emperor. Yi Qianyu's exposed eyes flashed with a mocking smile. After that, the evil emperor retreated as well. Princess Kitamura stood opposite Qin Wenyan. Cold eyes were still staring at Qin Wenyan, causing Qin Wenyan to perspire. Was this woman trying to pit herself against him? She must have been joking, right? Yu Huang, do you still remember the lake we visited? 1 month later, I'll go there to look for you. As the evil emperor retreated, Qin Wenyan transmitted his voice to Princess Kitamura. This battle ended too quickly. He wanted to ask Princess Kitamura how she was doing now. But given the current situation, it was impossible for him to leave a strand of immortal sense in her messaging crystal. Qin Wenyan could only arrange a time to visit her. Back then, he had abandoned Princess Kitamura in the Jialan monarch's Emperor Palace for over 10 years. Although Princess Kitamura had always been stronger than him in the past, monarch. Upon seeing the evil emperor and the others disappearing, some experts walked to the Jialan monarch's side, staring at him in bewilderment. The other party was a bandit. Even if they couldn't suppress them, they shouldn't allow them to leave so easily, right? If the Li-Fire Palace learned of this, the Li-Fire Empyrean would surely punish them. Something's wrong. This time around, the bandits didn't come for the mine. The Jialan monarch narrowed his eyes. He took out his messaging crystal and very swiftly, a voice rang out in his mind. Monarch, there are bandits attacking the quicksand mine and sky meteorite mine. Rumble! A violent aura gushed forth from the Jialan monarch. He instantly stepped out, moving towards the nearest city. The quicksand mine, meteorite mine, as well as the violet cloud mine, were the 3 main mines under his control. Right now, the bandits directly attacked this place on the day they opened the mine. He was already prepared for this and decided to ambush them here. However, the target of the bandits was actually the other 2 mines. What a good diversion. From the looks of it, even with such a powerful group of bandits, they weren't the full strength of the bandits. In that case, how strong were these bandits exactly? After the Night Empyrean was destroyed back then, could there still be survivors? Chapter 1552. After the Jialan monarch arrived at the city closest to the mine, he discovered that this city was attacked. The teleportation array leading to the Emperor City was destroyed. Clearly, this was a premeditated act of plundering. The first time the Jalan monarch plundered an ordinary mine, it was actually just a small matter. After 2 to 3 years, this was the true meaning of a grand robbery. As expected of the Knight Empyrean, the Jalan monarch had a heavy expression on his face. He knew that this time around he would surely be under immense pressure from the Fire Palace. As for Yi Qinyu and the others, they continued on their journey. Just like before, there were many people silently leaving, not communicating with each other. Their tacit understanding was terrifying. Yi Qinyu, Qin Wenyan and the others returned to the Thousand Feathers Palace in Heavenly City. Qin Wenyan, you actually didn't do your best to kill your enemies. You clearly have the ability to kill initial stage immortal emperors. Why didn't you act earlier? After returning to the inner palace, Qin Wenyan reverted to his original appearance. The barbarian emperor berated him. Qin Wenyan coldly glanced at him. I still want to ask you, what is the barbarian emperor's purpose? You clearly know that she is my senior apprentice sister. Why did you intentionally send her to fight against me? If it wasn't for me being held back, I would naturally be able to kill a few more people. What do you mean by this? Palace mistress, senior apprentice sister Qin Wenyan is someone from the Fire Palace. Her heart would no longer be there sooner or later. The barbarian emperor coldly snorted as he stared at Yi Qinyu. Man, since I dared to use him, I naturally have considered this. In addition, Qin Wenyan has already fought together with us and even killed an immortal emperor. What problem can there be? Yi Qinyu calmly spoke. Men, go ahead. After we obtain the mine, I will forge an even better emperor-ranked weapon for you. Many thanks, Palace Mistress. The barbarian emperor clasped his hands. He coldly glanced at Qin Wenyan before retreating. Yi Qinyu and Qin Wenyan then returned to her palace. After all, Qin Wenyan was staying there. Within the palace, Qin Wenyan stared at Yi Qinyu. Palace Mistress, what is the purpose of this robbery? Of course, he noticed that the plunder this time was unusual, and he couldn't help but ask. Yi Qinyu's earlier solemn expression vanished, revealing her charming and flirtatious look. She didn't reply to Qin Wenyan. Her soul-stirring eyes stared at Qin Wenyan with a smile. Your little lover is truly very beautiful and strong. So it turns out that you like cold beauties. Qin Wenyan was stunned and a little speechless. However, he didn't explain to this demoness. Don't worry. Although we didn't gain anything from our frontal attack, we won't have to worry about not having enough resources to cultivate for 100 years. Yi Qinyu smiled. There are 3 main mines under the Jalan monarch's jurisdiction. They are the Violet Cloud Mine, Quicksand Mine, and Heavenly Meteorite Mine. When we attacked the Violet Cloud Mine, the Quicksand Mine and Heavenly Meteorite Mine were also plundered. Tell me, if an immortal emperor brought a group of immortal kings to kill their way into the mines, how many mines would they be able to bring out? Qin Wenyan stared at the smile on Yi Qinyu's face as his heart involuntarily trembled. This time around, the purpose of the robbery was actually to cover for the other 2 mines. Not only that, they even killed their way into the mines. This was simply too audacious. Qin Wenyan bitterly smiled. Bandits, this seductive beauty before him was a supreme bandit. Could it be that he had boarded the pirate ship? Staring at the bitter expression on Qin Wenyan's face, Yi Qinyu winked at him and giggled. Even if you want to leave now, you won't be able to. Are you regretting now? Do you want me to order my men to forge 2 emperor-ranked weapons for you? You can tell me what weapon you want. Qin Wenyan bitterly smiled and shook his head. Yi Qinyu blinked her eyes and smiled. Could it be that you are angry because I didn't tell you about the operation in advance? I don't dare to. Qin Wenyan continued to shake his head. This was his first time participating in an operation. It was only normal that Yi Qinyu didn't tell him about it. Are you really angry? Could it be that you want me to devote my life to you? If you want it, you can just say it. Maybe I will agree to it. Yi Qinyu smiled. Her gaze caused Qin Wenyan's resistance to grow weaker and weaker. Upon seeing Yi Qinyu walking over, Qin Wenyan was on the verge of tears. Palace Mistress, I'm going to cultivate. As he spoke, he fled, running towards the cultivation platform. If you like cold beauties, I can pretend to be colder as well. Yi Qianyu stared at the fleeing Qin Wenyan as she called out. Qin Wenyan staggered and almost fell to the ground. Did he have to do this? Would he still be able to cultivate properly in the future? The quicksand mine and heavenly meteorite mine were plundered. The guardians of the two mines were almost completely wiped out. The bandits invaded the two mines at the same time and plundered everything in a frenzy. As the Jialan monarch who was in charge of the mines, he actually didn't appear in time. He only arrived after the mines were plundered. By then, the bandits had already vanished without a trace, leaving behind a scene of chaos. This matter caused quite a huge commotion in the Lifire Palace. The Lifire Empyrean was enraged and sent people to investigate. The Jialan monarch then headed to the Lifire Palace to beg for forgiveness. In the Lifire Palace, there were several monarchs who were on bad terms with the Jialan monarch who accused the Jialan monarch of not doing his job well. They begged the Lifire Empyrean to remove the Jialan monarch from his position, causing the Jialan monarch to feel extremely embarrassed. In the end, the Lifire Empyrean still gave him a chance to investigate this matter. He had to find the bandits no matter what. Only then did this matter come to an end. The Jialan monarch started his investigation. However, the other party didn't leave any clues for him. In addition, how would the bandits who plundered the two mines still take the initiative to appear? It was highly probable that they wouldn't appear again for a very long period of time. In fact, they might even vanish without a trace, never to appear again. Just like what the Jialan monarch predicted, after this incident, it was indeed impossible for Yi Qianyu to act again within a short period of time. As for Qin Wenyan, he was preparing to head to the Jialan Emperor city. After Yi Qianyu learned of this, she actually wanted to accompany him. Qin Wenyan was speechless and decisively rejected, not allowing Yi Qianyu to go. What a joke, wouldn't it be too conspicuous for an immortal emperor-ranked beauty to follow him? Could it be that this woman didn't know who she was? She was the daughter of the Knight Empyrean, the leader of the bandits. She even wanted to head to the Jialan Emperor city. What a crazy woman. Although Qin Wenyan firmly rejected, his rejection was useless. Hence, today, a strange duo appeared in the Jialan Emperor city. A young man walked in the city, exuding an extraordinary aura. This was naturally none other than Qin Wenyan, who had changed his appearance. Even so, he still exuded an air of elegance. But even so, the passers-by only casually glanced at him and treated him like air. Because the person beside him was simply too eye-catching. Today, Yi Qianyu was wearing a long dress with the tail of a phoenix, accentuating her sexy figure to perfection. Her radiant and beautiful countenance, her fair skin, her alluring figure, and her snow-white neck were all the more soul-stirring. What was even more alluring was the cut of her dress, revealing her long and slender legs. Her entire body exuded a mesmerizing aura. However, no one dared to antagonize her. When the passers-by glanced at her, they all discovered that her aura was deep and unfathomable. Her cultivation base was surely extremely high. However, such a flawless and sexy beauty was actually hugging that young man with one arm, her charming eyes gleaming with the light of happiness. But the strange thing was that the young man had a cold expression on his face the entire way, as though he wanted to beat someone up. This scene was simply too unharmonious. This made many people want to rush out and beat up Qin Wenyan before throwing him to the side to replace him. They silently cursed at this bastard in their hearts. Such a blessing, yet he didn't know how to enjoy it and even had a cold expression on his face? What did he mean? He actually didn't know how to have tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex? It was as though he had wronged him. What a bastard! Qin Wenyan truly wanted to beat someone up. It was one thing for this vixen to come, but couldn't she be more low-profile? What was the point of her dressing so sexily? Did she feel that she couldn't attract the attention of others? Being a bandit to such an extent, Qin Wenyan felt like crying. He initially wanted to come here in a low-profile manner. But now things were different. Everywhere they passed by, everyone would notice them. Can you let go? Qin Wenyan gritted his teeth as he transmitted his voice. He could feel the sensation on his arm. Right now, he was in great pain, extremely great pain. Am I not beautiful? Yi Qinyu glanced at Qin Wendian with a wronged expression. That gaze of hers could instantly cause the hearts of others to soften. It wasn't that she wasn't beautiful, she was simply too beautiful. Qin Wendian completely gave up when he saw the look in her eyes. He knew that it was useless. Whatever this vixen wanted to do, he wouldn't be able to stop her. Under the night sky, the scenery on the lake was incomparably beautiful. The dragon boats and pleasure boats could be seen, the sounds of zither melodies could be heard, and the pavilions on the lake were filled with beauties dancing. Boating on the lake was indeed a very relaxing thing. Qin Wenyin sat on one of the dragon boats, his immortal sense spread out in all directions. Beside him, Yi Qinyu was lying down with her head resting on his thighs. Her figure was as perfect as a water snake and was extremely alluring. This caused many dragon boats to gather around Qin Wenyin. Although he didn't dare to disturb them, it wouldn't be a problem for him to take a look, right? Qin Wentian's peak stage immortal king aura gushed forth, engulfing the surroundings. He coldly spoke, "Scram." A moment later, the dragon boats in the surroundings dispersed. Upon seeing this scene, Yi Qinyu's beautiful eyes flashed with a bright light. She giggled, "You wouldn't be jealous seeing so many people looking at me, right?" Qin Wenyin gritted his teeth and glanced at the supreme beauty beside him. For some reason, when he saw so many people paying attention to Yi Qinyu, although he wasn't jealous, he did feel a little uncomfortable. Maybe this was the nature of men. "Why don't you pursue me? Maybe in the future, I will only let you look at me alone. You can look at me however you want." Yi Qinyu smiled charmingly. Her long hair cascaded down the deck. That mesmerizing countenance of hers was even more beautiful compared to the moonlight. "Palace mistress, please spare me." Qin Wenyin transmitted his voice over. If this continued, he would surely die. At this moment, a strand of immortal sense collided with Qin Wentian's. After that, Qin Wenyin felt a chill in his body. His eyes abruptly opened as he controlled the dragon boat and flew towards a certain direction. On a boat far away, there was an icy beauty standing there. Under the moonlight, she was like a goddess and similarly attracted the gazes of many. However, the eyes of this icy beauty were coldly staring at Qin Wenyin and Yi Qinyu. Yi Qinyu seemed to have sensed something. She smiled lightly and actually placed her head on Qin Wentian's thigh. Qin Wentian's gaze instantly turned sluggish. Chapter 1553. This. Qin Wendian lowered his head and stared at the supreme beauty lying on his lap. He only saw Yi Qinyu smiling as she stared at the incoming dragon boat, smiling at the icy goddess on the boat. That smile, no matter how Qin Wendian looked at it, contained a hint of provocation. He couldn't help but feel a headache. This woman had truly gone crazy. Cold expression on Princess Kitamura's face was as cold as ever. She naturally saw Yi Qinyu staring at her. She stared at Yi Qinyu, her charming countenance and perfect figure laid there beside Qin Wenyin. Her exquisite curves were simply too alluring. Even as a woman, she could feel her charm, let alone Qin Wenyin who was a man. Inclining her head slightly, her cold gaze was akin to the cold wind, exceptionally piercing. Qin Wenyin bitterly smiled. Although he didn't have any relationship with Princess Kitamura and there was no need for him to explain anything, he still felt that this was somewhat absurd. This demoness' actions were completely illogical. This place was the emperor city of the Jialan monarch, yet she came here dressed in such a seductive manner, completely unafraid of attracting attention. One simply couldn't imagine what she would do. "You invited me here just to see this scene?" A cold voice rang out in Qin Wentian's mind. This was naturally Princess Kitamura's voice. "Yu Huang, if I say this demoness intentionally acted this way after seeing you, would you believe me?" Qin Wenyin bitterly smiled as he replied, similarly transmitting his voice over. "It doesn't matter if I believe you or not, we have no relationship at all. If there's nothing else, I will leave first. Now that you are a bandit, it's best if you don't stay in the Emperor's city any longer." Princess Kitamura's voice was as cold as ever, as though she wanted to push people 1,000 miles away. Qin Wendian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He weakly spoke, "Are you jealous?" Princess Kitamura's beautiful eyes flashed. Her cold yet bright eyes stared at Qin Wenyin. With a wave of her hand, the dragon boat directly turned around, preparing to leave. Just kidding. Qin Wenyin blushed with shame. He steered the dragon boat forward at high speed and soon caught up with Princess Kitamura's dragon boat. However, he did not go over to her. Instead, he just kept abreast of her dragon boat. "You're ignoring me after seeing your lover?" Yi Qinyu giggled, her words causing Qin Wenyin to stare at her in astonishment. She actually didn't transmit her voice and spoke directly. "You're crazy." Qin Wenyin lowered his head and looked at her. Didn't she know that if someone saw it, it would cause suspicion? "Sigh, looks like I'm not welcome here." Yi Qinyu bitterly sighed. After that, she sat up and spoke, "All right then, I'll leave the time to you guys. I'm going to be lonely by myself." After speaking, her silhouette flashed as she stepped on the lake, heading towards a pavilion. There was a fairy dancing there, exuding incomparable beauty. Yi Qinyu actually impolitely descended from the sky. She took off her shoes, revealing her snow-white feet. Her long and slender legs slowly descended from the air as her dress fluttered in the wind. Under the illumination of the moonlight, she truly resembled a celestial maiden descending from the moon, even more beautiful than a painting. What a beautiful woman! In just an instant, the tourists on the lake all turned their gazes over, attracting the attention of many. "She's a heaven-defying beauty." Everyone stared at her beautiful countenance, sexy figure, snow-white skin, and long and slender legs. They were instantly unable to shift their gazes away. Qin Wenyin was stunned once more, staring dumbfoundedly at this scene. He truly regretted it. He shouldn't have come together with her. Your luck with women isn't bad at all. There are two beauties in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms who are deeply in love with you. After you came to the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, you actually have such a beauty accompanying you. Princess Kitamura coldly spoke. Although she was praising Qin Wenyin for his luck with women, everyone could hear the sarcasm in her tone. "Yu Huang, during these years, I've always been worried about your safety. Have you been well?" Qin Wenyin knew that he wouldn't be able to explain himself, hence, he didn't bother to. "Is that so? With such a beauty accompanying you, and a beauty at the Immortal Emperor realm, you can even do so well as a bandit. Why would you still think of me?" Princess Kitamura coldly spoke. Qin Wenyin glanced at Princess Kitamura, only to see that her gaze was fixed on Yi Qinyu. She basically wasn't looking at him. Yi Qinyu's figure floated down from the air. Her body trembled lightly, and after that, she actually danced gracefully under the moonlight. In an instant, the gazes of the crowd could no longer shift away. The dance of the fairies in the pavilion below Yi Qinyu was also extremely beautiful, but at this moment, no one was able to appreciate it. All the attention was focused on Yi Qinyu. Her dance seemed to contain some sort of magical power. The moment she started dancing, everyone was drawn in, gradually falling into a trance. When Qin Wenyin saw this dance, he also had no way to shift his gaze away. Once again, he was stunned by Yi Qinyu. There were many beauties in the immortal realms, beauties as common as the clouds. He had seen many dances performed by fairies, but he had never seen such a beautiful dance before. In addition, this dance was performed by Yi Qinyu, a supreme beauty paired with a world-shaking dance. This side of the lake instantly fell into silence. The moonlight shone down on Yi Qinyu. It was like she was the only person left in this world, only her dance existed. The maidens below the pavilion stopped. They walked out and were similarly admiring Yi Qinyu. This was a true dance. It didn't seem like a dance of the mortal realm. Even for the maidens, they couldn't shift their gazes away for a long time. For those without great willpower, they would instantly be deeply attracted, unable to extricate themselves. That spiraling dance, that dancing fairy, that swaying figure, that long hair fluttering in the wind, every scene was deeply imprinted in the minds of everyone. Qin Wenyin suddenly saw Yi Qinyu smiling at him as she spun around. That smile seemed to have seeped into his soul, transforming into a mark that actually caused Qin Wenyin to involuntarily tremble. Princess Kitamura stared dumbfoundedly for a moment. After that, Her gaze slowly shifted to Qin Wenyan, who was beside her. When she saw Qin Wenyan being so attracted that he couldn't extricate himself, she sighed. No wonder he couldn't resist such a beautiful maiden. No man would be able to resist such a beauty. In addition, not only was she beautiful, she was also charming, capable of seeping into one's soul. Is there a reason why you invited me here today? Princess Kitamura no longer mocked Qin Wenyan. She seriously asked. Qin Wenyan awoke from the beautiful dance. He transmitted his voice to Princess Kitamura. Back then when I went to the mine, I didn't expect that I would be gone for over 10 years. I was worried that you might be at a disadvantage under the Jialan monarch. Although I heard that you are favored by the Li-Fire Empyrean, I'm still worried and wanted to visit you. Princess Kitamura's beautiful eyes flashed with a strange light. After that, she replied, I'm fine. The Li-Fire Empyrean personally appointed me to assist the Jialan monarch. But in truth, I'm considered someone from the Li-Fire Empyrean's side. The Jialan monarch wouldn't dare to do anything to me. Qin Wenyan nodded lightly. If that's the case, I can be at ease. Given your talent and beauty, no matter where you go, you would be valued. Beauties always have an advantage, let alone someone as beautiful as you. Are you praising me? Princess Kitamura calmly asked. Naturally. Qin Wenyan nodded. Then how do you compare to her? Princess Kitamura inclined her head and stared at the dancing silhouettes. However, she instantly regretted asking this. She silently cursed herself for asking this question. Could it be that she was provoked by Qin Wenyan earlier? Both of you are extremely rare in the world. Each of you has your own unique beauty. She is like a beauty under the moon, able to tempt the masses. As for you, you are like a goddess under the moon, sacred and inviolable. Why is there a need to compare? Qin Wenyan laughed. Princess Kitamura didn't say anything. She continued, in that case, are you prepared to continue being a bandit? Could it be that you don't know what it means to be a bandit in the supreme ancient immortal realms? You would never be able to show your true face to others, or you would be hunted down endlessly. Given your talent, even if you no longer want to be a bandit, you can still go to other places to temper yourself. In fact, it wouldn't be a problem for you to join any major power. Qin Wenyan sighed in his heart. He turned his gaze ahead again. When Princess Kitamura asked this question, he suddenly understood why Yi Qinyu would treat him like this. Even if he didn't have any other feelings for Yi Qinyu in his heart, would he really be able to leave just like that after Yi Qinyu treated him like this? After all, humans weren't emotionless creatures. It was impossible for them to fall out with each other. If he wanted to leave, at the very least, he would have to wait until he could truly do something for Yi Qinyu and repay her kindness before he left. Princess Kitamura stared at Qin Wenyan's expression and seemed to have understood something. In the end, he still couldn't overcome the charms of a beauty? I understand. Princess Kitamura spoke in a light voice. Qin Wenyan bitterly smiled and shook his head. Did she really understand? Clearly, Princess Kitamura didn't understand. However, he still didn't explain. After all, there was no relationship between him and Princess Kitamura. It was just that the crazy old freak dragged Princess Kitamura to accompany him to the immortal realms. Before this, given Princess Kitamura's strength, she could take care of him. But now, after he recovered to his peak, he no longer needed Princess Kitamura to take care of him. A messaging crystal suddenly appeared in Princess Kitamura's hand. Qin Wenyan started before he understood. A strand of immortal sense gushed forth from him, entering into Princess Kitamura's messaging crystal. At the same time, he also took out his own messaging crystal. Princess Kitamura did the same thing as him, sending a strand of her immortal sense into it. In this case, in the future, they would be able to communicate directly through their messaging crystals. In the future, you have to be more careful. Tell them that it's best for them not to continue plundering the mines in the Jialan monarch's territory. Also, they mustn't be discovered no matter what. The Li-Fire Palace would definitely be enraged. Once they learn of your identities, the Jialan monarch would directly borrow experts from the Li-Fire Palace to kill you all. Princess Kitamura kept her messaging crystal as she spoke. Qin Wenyan nodded, you as well. The hearts of humans are unfathomable. When working for the Fire Empyrean, you have to keep a low profile and don't easily offend others. I understand. Princess Kitamura nodded. After that, the boat under her feet slowly moved forward. And at this moment, Yi Qinyu's dance also gradually came to a halt. Chapter 1554. After Yi Qinyu stopped her dance, the entire lake quietened down as well. The eyes of everyone were still staring at that supreme figure under the moonlight. That figure seemed to be branded into the depths of their souls, so beautiful that it was suffocating. No matter how strong one's cultivation base was, when Yi Qinyu danced, no one would be able to resist her charm. The dance of a fairy is truly rare in this world. After a long time, a soft sigh rang out. Everyone gradually woke up. When they stared at Yi Qinyu's incomparably demonic beauty, they all felt an intense impulse to take her for themselves. Palace mistress, we should return. Qin Wenyin stood on the dragon boat as he transmitted his voice to Yi Qinyu. Yi Qinyu smiled and glanced at him as she replied, "Have you finished your tryst with your lover? I haven't played enough yet." After speaking, Yi Qinyu turned to everyone and continued, "Everyone, please don't blame me for making a fool of myself today. I only wish to find an ideal husband to accompany me. I wonder if anyone is willing?" Qin Wenyin had a dumbfounded look on his face as he stared at Yi Qinyu. This demoness, what was she trying to do exactly? Naturally, if Fairy doesn't mind, I'm willing to love only Fairy in this life. An extraordinarily handsome young man spoke. His skin was so thick that it caused people to click their tongues. He actually dared to directly confess. If Fairy can accompany me by my side, even if I can't cultivate in this life, I'm willing. Another person spoke. Everyone expressed their stances one after another. Among them, there were some Empyreans with extremely high cultivation bases. All of them were mesmerized by Yi Qinyu. At this moment, there were indeed many people who were deeply attracted by Yi Qinyu. They were simply infatuated with her and were willing to give up everything to have her. There are so many people, how can this little maiden choose? Since this is a world of cultivation, why don't we all compete based on strength? The one who can defeat all the heroes in the end, I will follow him. How about it? Yi Qinyu's beautiful eyes flashed with a charming smile, causing everyone to be infatuated. A peak stage immortal king stepped out, directly walking towards Yi Qinyu. I'm willing to give it a try. Boom. Abruptly, a gigantic fiery palm imprint descended from the sky, directly blasting towards the immortal king. That immortal king's expression drastically changed. A deafening boom rang out as that peak stage immortal king screamed in agony as his body was directly smashed into the lake. How laughable. Fairy is at the immortal emperor realm. An immortal king actually dares to step forward? An extraordinary cultivator walked out with his hands clasped behind his back. He was wearing a fiery robe and said, "I'm an elder of the Xinyan sect. If you don't mind, I'm willing to protect you." A mere elder of the Mystic Flame sect dares to act rashly here. I advise you not to come out and embarrass yourself. An Empyrean young man stepped out. His cultivation base was extremely high, at the immortal emperor realm. Also, he looked extremely young, like a gentleman, incomparably carefree. This was a disciple of an extraordinary power in Emperor City. His talent was extremely high, and his appearance was handsome. Thus, he was very confident. Fairy is a supreme beauty, able to topple cities with a single dance and also has such a high cultivation base. Initially, I wouldn't be able to match up to you. But since Fairy has spoken, I naturally have to fight for this opportunity. This person spoke beautifully, but in his heart, he was guessing that Yi Qinyu might be Wu Xiu who cultivated the charm arts. Although she was beautiful, she was abandoned by others and wanted to find a power to rely on. Not only him, many people here also had the same thought. If not, with such a beauty and such a cultivation base, what qualifications did she have to choose a Dao companion? Palace Lord, have you played enough? Qin Wentian's expression turned black. When he saw more and more people arriving, he knew that the Jialan monarch's subordinates would notice them. Although no one knew that Yi Qinyu was a bandit, it was still better to be more cautious. If there were any clues, things wouldn't be fun. Yi Qinyu's eyes were filled with hidden bitterness as she glanced at Qin Wenyin. She transmitted her voice, "If you don't act now, I might really leave with someone else." This vixen? Qin Wenyin was speechless in his heart. Was she playing like this just to force him to act? However, he could tell that regardless of whether it was plundering or her actions today, Yi Qinyu had always done whatever she wanted. She had no reservations at all, but she was also extremely intelligent. From the start, she wanted to see his astral souls and didn't force him to do anything. She only gave him a supreme cultivation platform. You clearly knew that she wanted to rope you in, but you still fell for it. And now, this Yi Qinyu was also doing this intentionally. Was she trying to force him to act? This crazy woman. Qin Wenyan sighed silently. With a step, he moved towards Yi Qinyu. After arriving beside Yi Qinyu, Qin Wenyan stretched out his hand and pulled her back. "Let's go." Yi Qinyu's eyes were like silk as she stared at Qin Wenyan. "I'm just taking advantage of you for free. I won't take responsibility. Don't regret it." Qin Wenyan was incomparably depressed. After being teased by her for so many days, Qin Wenyan was also extremely depressed. He lifted Yi Qinyu up, and when Yi Qinyu's soft and supple body wrapped around him, she would definitely be able to cause him to sink into oblivion instantly. "Put her down." The young man from before had an unsightly expression on his face. An immortal king actually dared to come out and snatch her away? "Let's go." Qin Wenyin carried Yi Qinyu and directly moved forward. That immortal emperor radiated a resplendent light, enveloping him. Qin Wenyin coldly glanced at him, and in just an instant, a terrifying eye technique was unleashed, instantly creating an eye technique space that caused his opponent to feel as though he was trapped within. Boundless sword might descended from the sky, forming a sword domain that could destroy everything. He roared loudly as Emperor might gushed forth, sweeping through everything. Qin Wenyin continued moving forward, punching out with a myriad of fist lights that howled in anger. It was like the fist of a heavenly god, tyrannical to the extreme. That immortal emperor roared in rage as a thunderous boom rang out. He was struck by the fist and was forced back explosively as he coughed out a mouthful of blood. Upon seeing this powerful attack, the eyes of everyone narrowed. When they saw Qin Wenyin passing by, no one dared to block him. After that, they saw Yi Qinyu smiling charmingly at them, as though her scheme had succeeded. Only at this moment did they understand that Yi Qinyu was doing this because she wanted this young man to act. In the blink of an eye, the figures of Qin Wenyin and Yi Qinyu vanished from the vision of everyone. Many people felt a sense of disappointment and frustration. That beautiful dance still lingered in their minds, unable to disperse even after a very long time. Was she really just an ordinary female who cultivated in the art of charm? That kind of demeanor, that kind of dance, could she be? Qin Wenyan's speed was extremely fast, soaring through the air. Yi Qinyu's hands were hooked around his neck as she stared at him with a myriad of emotions in her eyes. Under the moonlight, that flawless countenance and incomparably alluring figure caused Qin Wenyin to not dare to look at her. "Palace mistress, are you satisfied now?" Qin Wenyin released his neck, but Yi Qinyu actually didn't want to let go. She smiled warmly. "After today, I'm afraid you won't be able to forget about me forever." As she spoke, she released her grip and walked side by side with Qin Wenyin. A charming smile that could move the hearts of men could be seen on her face. Qin Wenyan's heart trembled slightly. That dance flashed in his mind, as well as the tender figure that was in his arms earlier. He silently sighed in his heart. As expected, the things she wanted to do would always be accomplished unintentionally. In addition, even though he knew she was doing this intentionally, he still couldn't stop her. Today, Qin Wenyin initially came here to see Princess Kitamura. But unknowingly, most probably, the memories of today were only about Princess Kitamura. This palace mistress of his was simply too awesome. "Palace mistress, given your cultivation base and looks, why must you do this?" Qin Wenyin bitterly smiled. Yi Qinyu gently stared at Qin Wenyin as she smiled. Could it be that you don't know that you are very handsome? Qin Wenyan was completely speechless. He naturally wouldn't be so foolish to think that a supreme beauty at the immortal emperor realm would tempt him like this just because he was very handsome. Oh yeah, do you still want to see the dance I performed earlier? If you want to see it in the future, you can come and look for me. I will dance it for you alone. Yi Qinyu suddenly laughed. After a moment of astonishment, a spatial gate appeared. Qin Wenyan stepped into it and fled in defeat. After returning to Heavenly City, Qin Wenyan immediately entered closed-door seclusion. He was afraid that if he were to interact with this demoness for too long, he might really be eaten up by her. As the #1 beauty of Heavenly City, even if Yi Qinyu didn't take the initiative to seduce others, there would be countless people drooling over her. Let alone when she went all out to seduce others. Most probably, not many people would be able to block her. Naturally, others wouldn't block her as well. With such a supreme beauty throwing herself at them, who would reject her? However, things were different for Qin Wenyan. If he really accepted Yi Qinyu, he would have to accept everything Yi Qinyu had to shoulder. He naturally understood this point in his heart. The hatred between her and the two world palaces as her man, he naturally had to bear it. This wasn't the main reason. The deeper reason was naturally because of Qing'er and Qingqing. They had given up too much for him and he knew that they were still waiting for him to return. He had to return to the Azure Mystic Immortal realms as soon as possible. Right now, his most important goal was to raise his strength. When facing a woman like Yi Qinyu, who wouldn't be moved? But even if his heart was moved, he still couldn't take that step forward. This time around, he entered closed-door seclusion for a very long time. During this period of time, he came out a few times but never for more than a day. At most, he would chat with Yi Qinyu, drink a few cups of wine, or ask about Princess Kitamura's current situation. After that, he would return to his closed-door seclusion. With such cultivation conditions, how could he not work hard? Unknowingly, another 10 years passed. It has been 23 years since Qin Wenyan entered the supreme ancient immortal realms. Not only did he recover his cultivation, he even surpassed his peak state back then. During these 10 years of closed-door seclusion, one could say that he was only a step away from the immortal emperor realm. Qin Wenyan could faintly sense that he wasn't far from the immortal emperor realm. Chapter 1555. In Heavenly City, there was a famous blacksmith named the River Portrait Immortal Emperor. He was an all-round blacksmith. The River Portrait Immortal Emperor was famous for his forging skills. His talent in forging and inscribing formations was extremely high. He was a true Grandmaster-level character. Many famous buildings in Heavenly City were built by him. Not only so, some Emperor-level characters from the major powers of the Li-Fire Palace would also personally visit him to invite him to help out. However, the River Portrait Immortal Emperor focused on his cultivation or researching forging. He didn't belong to any major powers and similarly, he didn't belong to any world overlord powers. In the supreme ancient immortal realms, the statuses of famed blacksmiths were extremely high. They could easily obtain vast amounts of cultivation resources and many unaffiliated cultivators wanted to walk the path of famed blacksmiths. When their cultivation base encountered a bottleneck and it was hard for them to advance further, they might spend many years to focus on forging. However, this was the same as cultivation. It required a high level of talent. Also, there were some people who wanted to condense a forging astral soul and had long since wanted to walk on this path. At this moment, in the residence of the River Portrait Immortal Emperor, Qin Wenyan was quietly staring at the River Portrait Immortal Emperor's carving. He was carving divine weapons, directly inscribing them on the gigantic Emperor stones. The weapons created by this method could only be considered the simplest type of divine weapon and wouldn't have much use. However, the River Portrait Immortal Emperor had carved many of them, filling the entire ground. This was merely a method of his daily cultivation. As for Qin Wenyan, he was currently sitting beside the River Portrait Immortal Emperor as he quietly watched. Don't think that this is the simplest form of carving. To the vast majority of people, they wouldn't even be able to do something as simple as this. Cultivation is never something that can be accomplished in a single step. It's the same for forging. For example, language is made up of words. If you can't even speak a single word, how can you combine those words into a sentence? The river portrait immortal emperor was very old. His hair was white, but his spirit was very good. This was especially so when he was carving. His eyes shone with a bright light, as though he was in high spirits. You should come here often. With your talent and cultivation base, there are already very few people who can focus on forging. Hence, I have taught you many things. Even if you don't choose to walk on this path, it might still be of some help to your cultivation. The river portrait immortal emperor took out a gigantic emperor stone and tossed it to Qin Wenyan. Come, try to carve it into a sword. All right. Qin Wenyan smiled and nodded. An incomparably sharp sword of law appeared in his hand as he started to carve on the stone. This stone was extremely tough and Qin Wenyan's speed was very slow, but he was very serious. Such a cultivation method could be said to be extremely wasteful. Only a wealthy blacksmith would do such a thing. Gradually, the emperor stone was shaped by Qin Wenyan into the shape of a sword. Numerous clear inscriptions resembling sword inscriptions could be seen emanating from the emperor's stone. Although it was clearly carved from a single emperor's stone, tens of thousands of sword intents gushed forth at the same time, resembling a sword domain. As expected, you are extremely talented. If you are willing to focus on this, your future achievements will definitely be much higher than mine. The river portrait immortal emperor smiled at Qin Wenyan. Senior praises me too much. It's just that I've studied formations in the past and have some understanding of the Tao of divine inscriptions. That's why I'm able to do this with ease. I still need Senior's guidance, Qin Wenyan replied humbly. Talent is the most important factor in forging. Have you read the ancient scrolls I gave you in the past? I've read them all. Qin Wenyan nodded. He took out a few jade slips and passed them to the river portrait immortal emperor. Lua, go and bring some more jade slips over. The river portrait immortal emperor spoke. After that, a voice rang out from outside. Yes, Grandpa. A moment later, a young lady in white walked over and passed some jade slips to Qin Wenyan. Her beautiful eyes flashed with a smile as she spoke. Grandpa has never treated someone so well before. I naturally understand Senior's kindness. Qin Wenyan nodded. Lass, these things are originally meant for others to look at. It's a waste to leave them on me. Given the talent of this brat, I'm naturally willing to add flowers to his brocade. The river portrait immortal emperor laughed. Little brat Qin, if you have the chance in the future, you can pay a visit to the Heavenly Talisman Realm. The Realm Lord of the Heavenly Talisman Realm has an extremely deep understanding of the Tao of divine inscriptions. There are many powerful blacksmiths there. Heavenly Talisman Realm. Qin Wenyan's heart trembled. What a familiar name. So it turned out that the Heavenly Talisman Realm was the same as the Lifelong Realm. Was it part of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms? In that case, the Heavenly Talisman Realm in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms was merely a chess piece the Realm Lord planted in the lower world. In that case, did the Realm Lord's ultimate goal was to control the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms in his hands? Given how the Heavenly Talisman Realm has been silently developing for so many years, there was a high possibility that this was the case. If they accumulated enough strength, once the Heavenly Talisman Realm came out, they might really be able to topple the entire Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. In that case, this ungoverned Azure Mystic Immortal Realms might become the backup strength of the Heavenly Talisman Realm. Heavenly Talisman Realm Lord? Master? Qin Wenyan smiled and shook his head. What sort of status did the overlord of a realm have? Most probably, he wouldn't be able to climb up to it. Back then when he was at the Celestial Phenomenon Realm, he had already joined the Heavenly Talisman Realm and took the Realm Lord as his master. But in truth, that was merely their wishful thinking. At most, they could only be considered disciples in name. Most probably, the Realm Lord of the Heavenly Talisman Realm wouldn't have the time to care about them. Yeah, the Heavenly Talisman Realm that is adjacent to the Lifelong Realm. You haven't been to such a faraway place yet, right? In the future when you grow stronger, you will naturally have a chance to go. The river portrait immortal emperor laughed. Grandpa, I also want to go on a faraway journey. Why don't you let me go out? The white-robed maiden at the side stared at the river portrait immortal emperor in a charming manner. Ha, with just you? I'm afraid you would be snatched away before you can even go out. The river portrait immortal emperor laughed. Luor's lips twitched. No matter what, I'm still at the immortal king realm. Fine. In the future when you find a Tao companion, you guys can go on a faraway journey. At that time, Grandpa won't care about you anymore. The river portrait immortal emperor laughed and shook his head. Grandpa, I won't look for a Tao companion. I just want to accompany Grandpa. How can that do? Grandpa will eventually grow old and you will meet someone you like sooner or later. Actually, I feel that little brat Qin Wenyan isn't bad. Luo, what do you think of him? The river portrait immortal emperor joked. Luo glanced at Qin Wenyan. Her pure countenance was filled with shyness. She then glared at the river portrait immortal emperor. Grandpa, what nonsense are you talking about? How can Mr. River Portrait be old? Old man, you are still young and vigorous. In the future, your cultivation base will surely grow stronger. A gentle voice drifted over. Yi Qinyu, who was dressed in a long dress, walked over. Her eyes were filled with hidden bitterness as she glared at Qin Wenyan. Palace mistress really knows how to speak. However, compared to her, this old man is truly old. The river portrait immortal emperor smiled and shook his head. Mr. River Portrait, is my man's talent in forging passable? Yi Qinyu smiled. The river portrait immortal emperor started. After that, he saw Yi Qinyu walking to the side of Qin Wenyan and stretching out her hand to hold Qin Wenyan's arm. Only then did he understand. His eyes were filled with bewilderment as he stared at Yi Qinyu and Qin Wenyan. Little brat Qin's talent is naturally extremely good. The river portrait immortal emperor nodded. In that case, many thanks for Mr.'s nurturing. We will bid our farewell first. Yi Qinyu pulled Qin Wenyan and left. Qin Wenyan was speechless as he was dragged away by her. He then revealed an apologetic smile to the river portrait immortal emperor. After the two of them left, the eyes of the river portrait immortal emperor gleamed with sharpness. Strange, the number one beauty of Heavenly City actually fell in love with a little brat at the immortal king realm. Turning his head, he saw his granddaughter staring at the two of them in a daze. Luo, are you also interested in that brat Qin Wenyan? But it seems like you have given up. You are still far from being able to compete with Yi Qinyu. It's just that although that brat Qin Wenyan's talent is very good, is he really worthy of Yi Qinyu's actions? Yi Qinyu and Qin Wenyan walked through Heavenly City. Her incomparably charming body leaned against Qin Wenyan as she spoke. Recently, you have been coming here every day. Could it be that you have fallen in love with the purity of a young lady? Qin Wenyan was speechless. Back then, weren't you the one who introduced me to Senior River Portrait to cultivate the art of forging? I also didn't expect that you would come here to woo girls. Yi Qinyu stared at Qin Wenyan. Upon seeing the bitter smile on his face, she nudged him and exhaled. Could it be that I still can't satisfy you? Do you want this mistress to serve you in bed tonight? Palace mistress, can you spare me? Qin Wenyan saw numerous gazes directed at him. Many of them were as sharp as blades. This place was Heavenly City and Yi Qinyu was known as the number one beauty of Heavenly City. Who didn't know of her? If he acted like this in public, his life would surely be in danger. Very swiftly, a shocking piece of news circulated around Heavenly City. The palace mistress of the Thousand Feathers Palace, the number one beauty of Heavenly City, Yi Qinyu, was actually hugging the arm of a young man in the city. They seemed extremely intimate and it was said that the two of them were already Tao companions. This young man had long resided in Yi Qinyu's palace. In fact, 10 years ago, Yi Qinyu even paid a huge price to invite the River Portrait Immortal Emperor to construct a supreme cultivation platform for him in her palace. When this news circulated out, countless people felt pain in their hearts. The goddess of their dreams had actually been obtained by someone else? There were some who were filled with hatred. A mere immortal king, What qualifications did he have to obtain Yi Qianyu? Hence, there were actually several immortal emperors who sent out letters of challenge to the mysterious young man, telling him to scram out of the Thousand Feathers Palace. However, Qin Wenyan didn't appear. Yi Qianyu got others to act and beat up one of the immortal emperors who sent the letter of challenge. This matter caused countless people to weep. What was going on with this world? Was the number one beauty of Heavenly City possessed by a demon? Could it be that this mysterious young man had a special ability that could gain the favor of females? This news circulated wildly. Today, in the mountain range outside Heavenly City, two figures met. One of them was actually the barbarian emperor, while the other was also an immortal emperor. Palace mistress, is it really like the rumors? You are actually infatuated with an immortal king? That immortal emperor's voice was cold. Palace mistress? The barbarian emperor clenched his fists as he spoke with hatred. Qin Wenyan has already resided in the palace mistress palace for over 10 years. The expression of the other immortal emperor stiffened. He sighed, I want to meet the palace mistress. It's useless. I've already persuaded her countless times, but the palace mistress is growing more and more disgusted with me. The barbarian emperor clenched his fists so tightly that crackling sounds could be heard. Qin Wenyan must die. Let's act according to the plan we agreed upon. Let's not meet again and directly communicate through the messaging crystal. The eyes of that immortal emperor flashed. After a moment of silence, he nodded, fine. Chapter 1556. Qin Wenyan's life was as simple as ever. He would comprehend, cultivate, borrow the emperor-ranked cultivation platform to sense the emperor light descending from the sky, and also research the art of forging. Sometimes, he would be like the river portrait immortal emperor, sitting there and sculpting. The river portrait immortal emperor was a mid-stage immortal emperor and was also a grandmaster level character. Forging was something he had to do every day. This would allow him to steadily increase his affinity with the different attributes of emperor-ranked stones, allowing him to be more proficient in forging. Qin Wenyan also felt that sculpting allowed him to gain a lot of insights. Every time he sculpted, he would be fully focused and his state of heart would be at peace. However, this was also because Qin Wenyan was wealthy now. If it was back then when he first came to the supreme ancient immortal realms, how would he have such conditions? Using emperor-ranked stones to sculpt was simply too extravagant. 10 years ago, he plundered many treasures and obtained a lot of cultivation resources. In addition, with that cultivation platform, he wouldn't be able to use these cultivation resources normally. At this moment, on the high ground, Qin Wenyan sat on the ground and took out an emperor-ranked stone, quietly sculpting. Beside him, a supreme beauty in white could be seen. Other than Yi Qianyu, who else could it be? Yi Qianyu stared at the serious expression on Qin Wenyan's face as her beautiful eyes gleamed with a bright light. She really liked how focused Qin Wenyan was when he was sculpting. Even if she tried to tempt him, Qin Wenyan would still be unmoved. Emichim? Yi Qianyu's beautiful eyes suddenly flashed as she stared at the gigantic emperor stone in Qin Wenyan's hands. He wasn't sculpting a weapon but was sculpting a person instead. The outline of a person could be faintly seen on the sword he was sculpting. An elegant figure, long hair, and gradually, an extremely beautiful face appeared. Pure and beautiful, a smile that could move the hearts of people. Those beautiful eyes were pure and flawless, capable of toppling empires. Who is she? Yi Qianyu had a serious expression on her face as she stared at the sword in Qin Wenyan's hand. He didn't stop and continued to carve out a flawless and lifelike image of that supreme beauty. After he was done, he continued to carve the image of another human. When the silhouette appeared, Yi Qianyu could already guess that this was a beautiful woman. In truth, it was just as she had guessed. This was a supreme beauty that exuded a faint coldness, incomparably pure and holy, as flawless as a snow lotus on an ice mountain. Who are they? Yi Qianyu's beautiful eyes flashed. She had met Princess Kitamura before, but the two maidens Qin Wenyan sculpted were clearly not her. Finally, the engraving sword in Qin Wenyan's hand dissipated, transforming back into astral light. He stared at the two silhouettes as a hint of gentleness flashed in his eyes. Such gentleness was something Yi Qianyu had never seen before. Upon seeing that gentle smile, Yi Qianyu's heart involuntarily trembled. Was this the reason why he was able to resist her temptation? They are my wives. Qin Wendian stared at the sculpture as he spoke in a light voice. I'm not someone from the supreme ancient immortal realms. I came from the azure mystic immortal realms from the lower world. In the azure mystic immortal realms, my enemies are everywhere. One day, the peak powers of the azure mystic immortal realms arrived at the place where my wives were at, forcing me to show myself. Many of my elders and good friends appeared together with me, resulting in a battle that shook the lower world. As for me, I died in battle. Hence, I can already be considered someone who has died once. Yi Qianyu didn't disturb Qin Wenyan. She was actually very quiet as she listened. After that battle, my wife's hair instantly turned white. My other wife was like a living corpse. It was only until I was revived by a stroke of good fortune that she regained her vitality. Her eyes finally regained their luster, and after that, I came to the supreme ancient immortal realms due to a stroke of good fortune. As for them, they are still waiting for me in the azure mystic immortal realms. Qin Wenyan smiled gently as he turned his gaze to Yi Qianyu. Is this the reason why your astral souls are extraordinary? Yi Qianyu instantly understood. My talent might be very ordinary. But knowing this, palace mistress, would you still be willing to do this to me? Qin Wenyan smiled. Yi Qianyu smiled at Qin Wenyan. Her smile didn't have the same charm as before, it was filled with gentleness as she spoke. Can you carve a portrait of me as well? Qin Wenyan was instantly speechless. What was this woman thinking about? Upon seeing the look in Qin Wentian's eyes, Yi Qianyu giggled. Maybe, I don't have any objections to being your concubine. Do you want to give it a try? Qin Wenyan stood up and fled in a sorry state, returning to the cultivation platform. Behind him, Yi Qianyu's laughter rang out. Qin Wenyan, are you still a man? Recently, Princess Kitamura suddenly received a mission. This mission was personally issued by the Li-Fire Empyrean, wanting her to head to a secret realm. She naturally participated in it. This was an extremely important trial for the Li-Fire Palace. She couldn't use external treasures or communicate with anyone. Hence, everything on her, including her interspatial ring, couldn't be brought into the secret realm, including messaging crystals. But even so, she didn't have any doubts. She had been in the Li-Fire Palace for many years and knew that this was the rule. But just when Princess Kitamura accepted this mission, the Jialan monarch actually issued a warrant for Qin Wentian's arrest. At the same time, one of Qin Wentian's accomplices would be executed a month later. It was said that Qin Wentian was a spy in the Jialan monarch's palace. This news soon circulated. Was this Qin Wentian one of the bandits from back then? At this moment, Qin Wentian still didn't know about this. Until one day, when he was on his way to the River Portrait Immortal Emperor's place, the barbarian emperor stopped him. What's the matter? Right now, Qin Wentian's attitude towards the barbarian emperor was no longer as polite as in the past. After that incident in the past, he already knew that the barbarian emperor hated him in his heart. Take a look for yourself. The barbarian emperor waved his hand as a warrant appeared before Qin Wenyan. Upon seeing the warrant, Qin Wentian's expression instantly turned extremely unsightly to behold. He turned and prepared to return. You want to tell the Empyrean? The barbarian emperor transmitted his voice. Do you think the Empyrean wouldn't know? If you tell her, do you think the Empyrean would still allow you to head to the Emperor's city? Or do you think the Empyrean would send people to their deaths for the sake of your lover? Qin Wenyan halted his steps. He slowly turned and coldly stared at the barbarian emperor as he transmitted his voice. You want me to head to the Emperor's city to die? I can't ask you to go or not. Whether you are willing to go or not, that's your business. In any case, there are only a few days left. Naturally, from my point of view, your life is more important. In addition, the Empyrean likes you. Why would you care about a lover? The barbarian emperor coldly laughed as he left. How would I know that this warrant isn't forged by you? Qin Wenyin stared at the back of the barbarian emperor as he coldly spoke. How ridiculous, you can easily find out the truth with just a simple investigation. The barbarian emperor directly left. Qin Wenyin stood at his original location and took out his messaging crystal. He sent a strand of his immortal sense into it and contacted Princess Kitamura. Yu Huang, where are you? There was no reply. He then spoke again. Yu Huang, this is an extremely urgent matter. Immediately reply to me. There was still no reply. Qin Wentian's expression instantly turned pale. He lifted his feet and headed towards the river portrait immortal emperor's location. However, his entire person was in a daze. Today, he sent many messages but he didn't receive any reply from Princess Kitamura no matter what he said. Clearly, the barbarian emperor's words were true. Something happened to Yu Huang. On the second day, Qin Wenyin silently left Heavenly City alone. He naturally disguised himself. Regardless of whether it was true or not, he had to go and take a look. He didn't tell Yi Qinyu. Even if she was willing to go together with him, he didn't want to implicate her. After exiting Heavenly City, Qin Wenyin sped towards a certain direction with incredible speed. Emichim? On the way, Qin Wenyin frowned. His sharp senses told him that there were people following him. Although this feeling was very weak, his instincts told him that there should be someone following him. However, he didn't care about it and continued on his way. Finally, two figures appeared before him, quietly standing there as though they had been waiting for him. Behind him, that immortal sense no longer concealed itself and directly shot towards him. Very swiftly, another two figures appeared. All four of them were at the immortal emperor realm. In fact, one of them was at the mid-stage of the immortal emperor realm. All of them were clad in armor and were fully equipped, like they were used to plunder mines. Barbarian Emperor, is this your true killing move? Qin Wenyin coldly spoke. One of the two behind him was none other than the Barbarian Emperor. Qin Wenyin, if you manage to enter the Emperor City alive and get captured, what if you betray us? Leaving you alive would only be a calamity. The Barbarian Emperor coldly spoke. The Jialan monarch was precisely the one who leaked the news. However, the Barbarian Emperor only had a single goal, and that was to kill Qin Wenyin. He naturally wasn't willing to implicate the Thousand Feathers Palace. Even though Yi Qinyu's feelings for him were far inferior compared to Qin Wenyin, he still liked Yi Qinyu and had liked her for many years. He only wanted Qin Wenyin to die. Are you all also Qinyu's subordinates? Was it the Barbarian Emperor who instigated all of you to kill me? Qin Wenyin stared at the others as he spoke. The palace mistress is behaving strangely now. As her subordinates, we can only help her correct her actions. An immortal emperor coldly spoke. Even if we are to be punished, we still don't mind it. I will naturally bear all the punishment. However, the Thousand Feathers Palace is the blood and sweat of us brothers. We cannot allow it to be destroyed in the hands of an outsider. The Barbarian Emperor's voice was extremely cold. All right, let's do it. Ench? The others nodded. 4 immortal emperors including a mid-stage immortal emperor. Using such a lineup to kill a peak-stage immortal king was already sufficient to show that they regarded Qin Wenyin highly. This was naturally the arrangement of the Barbarian Emperor. He knew how powerful Qin Wenyin was, being able to easily kill an initial-stage immortal king. He couldn't help but to be more cautious. An intense light radiated from Qin Wenyin. The radiance was so resplendent that people couldn't even open their eyes. Almost at the same time, the 4 immortal emperors unleashed their powerful law energy. Beams of emperor light descended from the sky, as well as astral light. They stood in 4 different directions and directly blasted out an attack towards Qin Wenyin. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.